Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where, some of us are on the road and some of us are still looking real svelte over there. Damn. I'm your host, Mr. K. Asante, TKO Asante on all the places we communicate. And of course, I am joined this week and every week by my brother from another mother, the man who's making me look bad by losing all this damn weight and looking good, Mr. Everborn Saga. Good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Well, how are you, sir?
I'm on the road, as you can tell. I got my road set up going. I might even post a picture on the old Twitter sphere and whatnot. I got a hodgepodge setup going on, but it seems to be working out pretty well. I got the cam going, got the mic, the whole thing.
This is just practice for when you're at Gamescom, sir.
That's why I was like, I had to do it. And by the way, I'm doing all of this on my 8-inch X1 Mini. I'm running the whole show from it. So in case anything screws up,
people for
yes,
a handheld.
Those who don't understand, that is a very small handheld. In case anything screws the pooch, I'm warning you now. The whole thing is being run on a thing with a touchpad. The mouse is like this small. The whole thing is small and ridiculous, but it's working. So thank you guys so much for checking this out. Thank you guys so much for being here. I see the chat's already getting lively. I see people already tuning in. We are slated to have a guest, but of course that guest I think is not on the East Coast, so he might be a little early still with his time. I'll ping him in the background and see if he'll be able to jump in. He does have the invite, so hopefully he can join us. But before we get into all that, I want to thank all the fine folks who happen to join us on the Saturday morning. Yes, it is your Saturday morning talk show. It is your Saturday morning cartoons, as it were. If you haven't done so already, please consider hitting that like button. Think about subscribing. Think about becoming a member of our channel and our Discord, which is also featured in the show notes when it goes live. Before we even get started, I want to address something right off the top, Mr. Everborn Saga. I haven't even chatted with you about that, and I kind of want to talk about it on the show now. We have been hearing some things in the background, both with trusted voices and just the general community, that we should be doing more in our Discord, and we should be hanging out more and having more of a good time in our Discord. And I've taken those constructive criticisms to heart. So actually, I don't know if you knew this, Everborn. Yesterday, spent like 7 hours in the Discord playing on this very X1 Mini, playing some games. Actually, some of the footage you will see today was me recording footage while I was playing, and we had the chat in the background. I had a couple people in the chat. We were just chatting, having a good time. You will start seeing more of that from us, at least for me. I hope you will do the same, everyone. I know you've been doing your dev thing in the Discord.
Yeah, I need to get back to that. I don't think I've gone live with that in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, chat, tell us. We want to get. So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The timeline is garbage. All right, I'll just say it. Like you look at the Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, timeline. It is terrible. It's just a bunch of miserable people that are either like
a lot of crying people, a lot of crying.
Yeah, like these like some news comes out and you're not mad, so you're a corporate shill, or you don't like something and then you're toxic and you got an opinion on a game, positive or negative, that is different from what the mainstream is. Everybody attacks you. You talk the truth, people don't like the truth, and then they attack you. All that, and again, it's just starting to feel like people just come there to complain. So what we want to know is if you guys would be interested in joining us into creating a
safe
more
space?
highbrow community. No,
safe space.
we don't want safe spaces. No, it is not a agreement with our opinions is not a prerequisite.
Absolutely.
Of joining the community we want to build, but we do want to have a place where people actually voice their opinions on things, well thought out opinions, instead of just saying it sucks or it's a 10 out of 10, right? Smart people, right?
Yes.
And so That's all I'm saying. We think that we can do that. We think we can build a very interesting community of people in the Discord. So chat, or if you're listening on the YouTubes or whatever, what do you think?
Poll is
But
up.
yeah, now I
Quick
do want
question.
to.
Discord versus Twitter. Make your choice. Let's see if and we'll do it throughout the show. We'll see which audience wants one versus another more. Please, I'm sorry, everyone. You were saying.
Captain Chats asked a question in the chat.
Okay, that's fine.
So he says
Uh-huh.
he needs to ask me a question. Last week, he said, you boot right into Steam Big Picture mode on your ROG Ally X. I've tried doing the same this week, and it's very laggy at times. Do you experience the same? The answer is no. However, what I would say, I'd be interested to know what your setup is. Is it on an Ally? Is it on an Ally X? Are you just trying that on your main PC? So apparently I'm very low. So you guys tell me, am I still low?
Yeah, you gotta get it on the mic, man. You gotta get it on the
I'm
mic.
in the mic. The mic is like about to punch me in the face.
Yes, continue.
Okay, so Captain Chat, you're on an Ally X. I have not had that. Just
riveting radio right now. He's about to
no. Listen,
cracking open his case.
Listen,
he's doing it live.
We're doing it live. All right, Bill O'Reilly style.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm turning this thing on.
Yep. So for those who are listening, he is now turning on his Ally X. We are being regaled by the eye of Sauron, which is the ASUS logo.
You notice that Xbox green?
Of course.
All right, so
and
right
then
there,
boom, it's right
there,
into
right?
Yeah. Now forgive me, I know that's small print. Is that the did you start inside did it start inside Armory Crate and then moved over, or did you start straight
to Big Picture mode?
Okay.
Now I can go to Armory Crate if I want. You press the button.
Yeah.
And even that is fairly quick. So what? Maybe what's your VRAM settings? Did you mess with those?
And
back
also
to Big Picture mode.
So
press
a quick
I set the button
me.
in the back. One thing, I set the button in the back to the Xbox button, so it brings up the. And that's just cold startup. I didn't even know this question was going to come up. So
well, hold on. A quick advice from me: if you're saying that your startup is laggy, question is what else is starting up at the same time. That's
you gotta go into the task manager and make sure. All right, if you haven't looked at VRAM, then you have 8 for video and
which
16
is more than enough. More than enough. Yeah. It's about your startup settings. You probably have a lot of default things starting up at the same time as the same time that Steam Big Picture mode is starting up, and that'll make it. They'll be fighting for resources right at jump. If you want to run it that way and want to run it straight into Big Picture mode and not have any issues, make sure nothing else is running when you're doing that. It starts up, boom, just Big Picture mode, nothing else.
I turn off OneDrive from starting up. The only thing I keep running at start is Steam and the Windows Defender, just because. And I probably don't need that, but I keep it anyway. But I definitely turn off OneDrive because you don't need that on a device like this.
Okay, let's get started because I see some slander in the chats already. And we're going to address them right at the top. First and foremost, Mr. MJ Dark, $2 super chat. Good morning, sir. He says, shout out to the X1. ROG can never. Well, I don't know about can never. I would never, because that 16:9 1080p screen will be difficult to run all this on. Even this 8.8-inch screen is difficult to run all this on. So maybe that is a thing.
I just have to say can, will, and does.
But I don't know if you know that though, because you haven't tried that. You have not tried running the show from it.
I want to tell everyone about this TomTalk case. They're not like any sponsor or affiliate, but I swear by this thing. You can see how slim it is. This is the case if you got a ROG Ally or a ROG Ally X. TomTalk hard case.
And then Mr. Risky for the Biscuit, who's been a member for 1 month. Thank you so much, Risky. He says, But PC is easy, huh? Never any issues, huh? Plug and play, they say, huh? So there you go. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your slander on this fair morning for us. Yes, look, man. If you want literally plug and play, get a console, and also deal with all the issues that the consoles also present. These are some of the issues you have on
Console's
PC.
not
It is what it is.
always like it is easier than PC, but it's not like, let's not pretend it doesn't have its own issues and setups and updates and things that you got to do.
Absolutely. So it is what it is, bro. It is what it is. I think if you are motivated to jump into PC waters because of what it offers you, then chances are you'll be cool with this. This won't be a concern for you. But anyway, while we wait for our guest, let's get this thing started properly. Mr. Everborn Saga, I have to both thank you and take you to task because this week, two things. First, I've been playing.
Just only one thing. To answer Riskit's super chat.
Okay.
Michael Santiago says Steam Deck is also plug and play. That is very true.
If
you never want to go into the Linux mode, that thing is a console and through and through. So, Mr. Riskit, if you want to get into this handheld world, if you want to get into the handheld world and you don't want to deal with the Windows nonsense, get a Steam Deck OLED. It is top tier recommend. It's the only thing I'd recommend other than the LIX.
But of course, then you have to get used to the idea that you will not be able to play Game Pass games, at least not by default.
You could do it in the cloud, but yes.
But okay, let's see here. Before we get this thing all the way live, let's talk some games, man. Let's talk some games. So I got two games that I want to talk about. One that I know you want to talk about with me. One that I'll chat quickly about right off the bat. Let me ask you a question, sir. Do you know a game called Myst?
The point and click adventure from back in the day?
Yes, sir. You know a game called Myst? Yes. Did you know that they made a what do you call it? A successor to Myst called Riven?
This sounds familiar, but I've played Myst. I've never played Riven.
Okay, so salute to them. They made a game called Riven, and this was in the 90s, of course, early 90s, and they've remade Riven in Unreal Engine 5.
Oh, I was gonna say, is this how Riven looked in the 90s? That's wild.
No. Unreal Engine 5 remake, absolutely fantastic. If you've played, I'm talking to those who remember this stuff. Like, it is completely different than what you would remember, but the puzzles are still the same. The atmosphere is still the same. Very, very dangerous feeling, but it's a puzzle game. It's like The Messenger. Is it The Messenger? No. Jonathan Blow's game. You know, the more recent puzzle game that people like so much, which has like visual puzzles and visual elements. This, I would say this speaks to that energy, but he spoke to this energy because this was first. And they're literally remaking it, and it is both in flat mode, you know, the normal mode, and also if you happen to want to do so, you can play it in VR mode. What you're looking at right now is obviously the Steam version, the flat mode, and I actually played this on the old X1 Mini that I'm running the show on because I've been on the road, so I haven't had a chance to play this on my big machine. But I have to say, like, as a guy who loved those kind of old, like it's not really point and click anymore. You know, you got your updated modern controls, and it is it's even more dangerous feeling. It's even more ominous when you're in there, right? Yeah, this is not a world where monsters will come after you at any moment's notice. This is not a world where things will come and go bump in the night by any stretch, but it feels that way in between visual puzzles and in between a mystery that you're solving. And the more you unpeel, the more you peel back the layers, the more mystical and strange and unusual it gets. So, like, I'm really early in. This is just about like 20-30 minutes of footage. I'm really, really early in. I actually reluctantly played it on here because I feel like this game deserves to be played in VR or on a really big honking PC, which I'm on the road, so I wasn't able to play this on my big machine. But I had to give it a try, and I really enjoy it. It's got a tranquil yet dangerous energy to it, even though at the end of the day, nothing's coming for you. They're not coming to hurt you or anything like that. It's all about the visual puzzles. It's all about the intelligent puzzle that you can download download that you can get your mind around, and when you solve a puzzle, you feel like a Greek god. It's amazing. I don't know. Were you ever that kind of a point and click gamer in the beginning, or is this all new for you? If you're talking, you're on mute, sir.
It's not new. I've played Myst, but I've never really been into the point and click adventure.
Okay.
The last point.
Well, this does not point or click.
well, no. What I was saying is the last point and click adventure I played was The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh my God. Yeah, that game was absolutely hilarious. I do recall that. So this game, the original version of this game was made in 1997, and they just remade it for modern audiences, right? So it's a must play. If you really enjoyed the original one, it's not too much different as far as puzzles and things like that, but the visuals alone are just gobsmacking. They're so good. And of course, Unreal Engine 5, so the graphics are just like on display. It's really, really, really good and mysterious and scary and all that stuff you remember from the OG Riven game. So I'll talk more about it once I get more time into it. I want to put the VR headset on and really get some time in on it. But yes, I would advocate that if you haven't tried it already and you remember what Myst is and you remember what Riven did, you will not be disappointed in this. And I think it's on everything. It's even in VR headsets. You can literally buy this on a Quest. But what I'm playing here is just on Steam, and even on Steam you can like connect it to a VR headset, any VR headset, and have a good time there too. So the PR team provided me a code. I appreciate them doing so. I'm of that old school ilk. I remember playing the original version, so I'm kind of it's like deja vu, right? It's what your mind remembers, but Lord knows that's not how it looked when you first played it. So it's really cool.
I saw an interesting GDC talk about from when the guys that made Streets of Rage 4, I think it was Lizard Cube or Dotemu, but they talked about remaking things. It's not as simple as just throw the same thing on the screen, because you have to match the way people remember it versus what they actually got. Because if you go back and play a game of that era, especially the 3D stuff when they were figuring these things out, a lot of the controls were very clunky, tanky. A lot of the combat was very basic, movement and things like that. And so even if you're remaking a like something like a Shredder's Revenge or a Streets of Rage, like the way that controlled is not really gonna translate well all the time. There are some games that like their control schemes are timeless, but it's just interesting what needs to be done to capture the memory of something versus just remaking it.
Yep.
Yep. And then the other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it'll remind you of, remember how and this is much for younger audiences. Well, younger, depending on who's talking about it right now. Remember when they remade Halo Combat Evolved and people remember it a certain way, and then you hit the button and it turns. This is very much that deja vu energy. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No, just when you're ready to move on to the next thing, before we do that, I want to highlight the trailer that Mr. MJ Dark shared with us in one of the DMs. It's called The Eternal Life of Goldman. It's a really nice trailer.
I did watch that this morning. Yes,
I would love to showcase it to everybody that's watching. Like,
okay.
We like to tell people about the stuff that they might not be paying attention to. This seems like one of those.
This seems like okay. Well, you know what? I will actually pop that up right now, and we'll see about talking about that then. Hold on one second here. Let me get this up. There we go. So all right. So why do you think? And I'll put this on the screen in a moment. Forgive me again. Like I said, I'm doing all this on the fly on a very teeny tiny control a device, which. Let's see here. We'll go to it. And where is it? It's right. Hold on one second here. Yeah, this is.
Let me ask you a question while you do that. Sorry if it's multitasking, but
no. Go ahead. Yeah.
you know, the level of visual puzzles and things that you have to do in a game like Riven, do
Yeah.
you wish they would have taken some of that into account in a game like Hellblade, so it could be more engaging as well as the combat? Because I really enjoyed the combat, but the puzzles were the weakest part. It just felt like a way to slow you down. Do you think they should have like taken some notes to? Don't worry, it's gonna get there. There's gameplay in this. Don't worry. Um, but what do you think about that? Like, if you were to compare the puzzles in a Hellblade 2 versus the puzzles that
Yeah,
you
no,
see in
I hear
Riven,
you.
and
I
I
hear
do
you.
think it's a
Like,
fair comparison, because if you're saying
yeah,
like this game is about the puzzles, then you should have
it
like
is about
good
the puzzles.
puzzles.
Yeah. It's about the puzzles, it's about the mystery, it's about the feeling of unease as you do them. I do it is a valid argument. It is a valid critique to make, in that they maybe could have lent a little more into that side of the house. I just feel like, specifically with Hellblade 2, I feel like they really spent their energy on that realism. And you can tell, right? Like, they spent their energy on that realism. And maybe possibly the puzzles and those other things not suffered, but were given shorter shrift because of it. Possibly, maybe, I'm not sure.
All right,
But
here's
yes,
the
I
game.
do hear you on that. Yeah, here's the game. What do you think? When I first saw this thing, I was like, wow, the animations and all of that on display are amazing. And then it turned into a side scroller. I'm like, okay, that's a different energy than what
With
I initially
amazing
thought.
animations. Like, look at
With amazing
this.
animation, yes, absolutely, it does have amazing animations. Yes, yeah, this is really, really cool. Do we know when this thing is coming out?
No, it just says coming soon, wish list now by the end. But I looked at
Okay,
this and I was like, my God, like this is.
yeah.
And I hate to overuse the Ori thing, because this looks like it has
Mhm.
more going on in terms of animation than Ori did.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see what like the combat is like, but this
They
looks
seem to have a
honestly
lot of
amazing.
gameplay ideas on display. There are a lot of systems upon systems, a lot of like gameplay mechanics
Th-
that
this is
they're working with.
like this is like if you gave that game, what's the one that was like 3 hours long that we played over the
The
weekend that we
Cub,
really
the
liked?
Cub.
The Cub. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
gave the Cub a $20 million budget, I'm not saying this game costs 20 million, but you get what I'm
yeah,
saying. If you
yeah.
gave them a multi-million-dollar budget, it's like this is what you'd get. Like this
Yep,
looks
yep. It does look
really
amazing.
good.
It really does look
THQ
amazing.
Nordic. Look at them.
Indeed,
I thought they were.
indeed.
I
You
thought
thought
they were done.
going the way of the dodo. You thought they were going the way of the dodo bird. Yes, I understand. No, it does look amazing, no doubt. It really does look amazing.
So
Yeah.
that is getting wish listed as we speak.
Yep.
But
Very
let me
cool.
ask you a question. Where are you
Mhm.
gonna wish list it?
Well, you know what? Before I answer that question, though, as I said, we have a guest who may be incoming. Ladies and gentlemen,
Look at this
Hallie
guy.
Adams. Good morning, sir. We appreciate you for being here. You are live with us. Hopefully you hear us. What's going on, man? How you doing? Oh,
What's up, fellas?
Oh,
For some reason,
you
I
doing,
can't hear
man?
you yet.
oh, you can't. We can't hear. We'll give us a moment. Let him. We'll let him work out the technical mumbo jumbo, and we'll get back to him. But yes, we appreciate you being here. Go ahead. But yes, you. What were you asking me, Mr. Everborn?
Oh no, I was saying Paris has entered the chat because he knew Leaf was coming, and
Of
so
course, of course, of course. You know, he had to be in here and throw in his ones and twos. Of course, yes.
yeah. But the thing I was saying was, where are you gonna wish list it? Steam or Xbox?
Probably Xbox. Well, probably Steam. Let's be honest. Probably Steam. It's definitely gonna be Steam. You know, Steam tends to be the place I play things most of the time.
So that is and it has become an interesting quandary for me, right? Like so, I've been defaulting to Steam because it's the most easily transferable in terms of. Hey, can you hear us, Khalif?
No,
Not
he
yet.
says he can't hear us. Let me see.
But transferable in terms
There you
of like jumping from with the cloud saves and jumping to, and not that Xbox doesn't do that, but not every game is going to be cross play, right?
Yep.
Or cross buy, and I
Yep.
just don't have to think about that on Steam. If I got the PC connected to the TV and I got the ROG Ally, I I just buy it on Steam and don't think about it.
Yeah.
I'd like Xbox to get there where you don't have to think about that. But hey, Khalif, can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
All
all
right.
Absolutely.
Good
Fantastic.
morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know what? We appreciate you being here, man. I understand that you're not on. Am I wrong, or you're not on East Coast time, right? You're not on East Coast.
I'm on West Coast time, but
I thought so. Yeah.
this is one of those mornings where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So it was.
It's Murphy's morning.
It was. Yeah, for me it was Charlie Murphy. It was
That was good. That was good.
It was
it's real good.
cacophony of errors this morning. So I apologize for not being here, but not being on time and not reaching out as quickly as possible.
No,
It's all
no,
good.
no.
I'm a co-host on this show, and I do it all the time, so you don't have to feel bad.
So you got me for as long as you need me for. I owe y'all time.
No. Look. Let me. And since you weren't able to jump in at the top, let me give you the intro that you deserve, ladies and gentlemen. I like this show. This show is a show that we get a lot of accolades about, right? We get a lot of people in the DMs talking about how they appreciate the earnestness with which we bring our conversation. They appreciate the grown man talk that we always do. People know that we love shows like the Iron Lords and a few other shows that really influenced us. And I will tell you, about 4.5 years ago, maybe five years ago, when I was having this idea of doing this show, right? Someone sat down with me and talked to me, and it was like, oh, what kind of energy are you trying to exude with your show? And the one trailer, the beginning opening credit that I played was Spawn on Me.
Wow.
Because seriously, no doubt, I will tell you, one of the main influences for this show has been your work and what you continue to do in this space. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to have on Khalif Adams. Welcome, sir.
That makes me feel even worse for messing up this morning.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. You know, this we call it the gaming circle because people jump in and out as they see fit. You know, people jump in. Sometimes our show turns into 15 people. Sometimes we try to keep down. You know.
This is when I raise my fist to the internet and I'm like, curses, internet. But first of all, thank you so much for saying that, and thank you so much for the work that you both do. You know, we get a chance to see each other very, very randomly and seldomly, but we do cross paths all the time. And you both just have such a wonderful energy to the work that you bring to this space. It is so needed. I tell people all the time, they're like, man, it was really nice to be in a space where you had smart people talking about things smartly. And you both have that in spades. It's so easy to see the work that you are doing come through and the community you've built. And so many people give y'all love in the ways that you deserve because you're doing that work in a way that I think is laudable and appreciated. And people really need to see more brothers like us trying to have those conversations in those ways. Because, man, Team Professional Screamer is winning right now. And it makes me sad because we get so many folks who understand this business and understand a smart way to talk to everything that's happening, and it's rare now. We are now on the rare side of the field when it comes to, you know, people having and doing this work in a way that feels good in that way. So that means a ton to me, and I really do appreciate that a ton. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we don't want to, you know, toot our own horns, but beep. But the thing is,
there you go.
It's the thing, we talk about it all the time. It's like the rage economy, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy, and it's honestly kind of lazy and basic, but it's very easy to just monetize people's rage, because I think that, like, just as a society, people just, you know, it's stressful just, you know, existing or whatever. And a lot of people need a direction to point their anger. So a lot of the times, and again, streamers have seen this, Fox News has seen this, right? Just news media in general has seen this. Give people a direction to point their rage, and they will rally around your banner of whatever, right? Yeah. And I said this to Paris a long time ago. I would rather be known for what I love versus what I hate. Right. And again, because the problem is, if you build an audience based on anger, you have to keep that up. And I know these people aren't that angry all the time in their real lives. And so the moment they're like not angry at something, like
Damn, Paris Lily, I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm just saying we can move on, but I believe rage clicks have a ceiling.
Absolutely.
And you'll see people plateau on those things. So slow and steady is the path, I say.
Yep.
But anyway, Mr. Host.
No, yeah, absolutely. I will lastly say, I always say we walk on the shoulders of giants, and we have a giant among us. So thank you once again. We really appreciate you for being here. This is awesome. It's real cool to have you here. But before we get back to our games talk, because we were talking games.
Yes.
MJ Dark with a $2 super chat. Thank you for being here, good sir. He says, shout out to the fellow NYC homies and Knicks fan. Oh boy.
Boogie down all day. Boogie down Bronx all day, every day.
So we were
talking. Did you say the Bronx? Are you from the Bronx? Mm-hmm. What part of the Bronx?
Northeast Bronx. I'm like Gun Hill roadside.
Let me tell you
on the 2 and the 5. On the 2 and the 5.
No. Wait a minute. Let me tell you something, Mr. Khalifa. Do you know where I went to high school?
Did you go to Evander?
I went to Evander Childs High School.
Evander Childs High School.
And if you know Gun Hill Road, between Boston and White Plains Road,
yep,
you'll know where that Jehovah's Witness church is. Yes. So the house right next to that, down the hill, is where I grew up my entire life.
That's wild. You were like blocks away from me, basically.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Avenue, you know these things.
You on Paulding? What?
Yeah.
Okay, I was on Laconia.
Right? Come on.
Do you know PS 78?
I went to 76.
Okay, so PS.
And then I went to 135.
I went to 135.
Wait a minute. How old are you, sir?
I'll be 45 this year. So I got you by some years.
Yeah. I'm gonna be 43 this year. We may have crossed paths in there.
You might have been like a freshman when I was a senior or something like that at 135.
Could be, yeah.
Wait a minute. Wow, that's crazy. so it's funny. So I was reminiscing the other day about the Q Lounge.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a lot of double barrels on Yates. Wow. So I grew up on 216th in Laconia.
Yes, sir.
And the Q Lounge was like the only like really big neighborhood arcade in our neighborhood. So like that's where I cut my teeth. Like so every time I talk about the years of the arcade that I grew up in, that was where it was. Oh, so Double Barrel went to Columbus. I went to Truman, which was not.
We had a lot of beef with.
We had beef with
Truman. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that was the rivalry. Rivalry was Truman and
don't forget DeWitt Clinton.
No, we don't even acknowledge Clinton. We don't even acknowledge Clinton people. Clinton people were the nefarious ones in the because they used to mess around and try to hit on all the Catholic school girls all the time because they were right across from each other. But
what was sick, and you didn't realize it at the time, is the dudes that matriculated out of high school but then used to hang out in front of the high schools to pick up the girls because they had a car.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a thing that happened.
This is all that happened. It was so bad. It was so bad. It was like, yo, dude, you 35. Why you over here? Get out of here. Yo, why you here?
Nuts.
But that's fantastic, fam. That's like we are literally neighbors in our Bronx.
I would not be surprised if we bumped into each other and did not know, because I was at the Q Lounge all the time. I used to have to like gather quarters to get to go over there. That is where you played Marvel versus Capcom. That's where you played the X-Men beat 'em up game. Mm-hmm. So yeah. That's
wow.
Crazy. Small world.
Smallest of worlds. Yeah. That's fantastic. That's cool. That's dope.
That's awesome. See, so a lot of New York natives tend to be in our chat. So as y'all are speaking right now, we're seeing fists be pumped in the air every 5 minutes in here.
Oh, by the way, you brought up Lehman. That is where I got my bachelor's degree from, sir.
That's awesome. That's really, really dope. Yeah.
And now my daughter, who's starting the 9th grade, is going to Bronx Science, which is right across the street from Lehman.
That's so crazy. That's wild. It's interesting. So like I went to Lehman College, which is, you know, folks who know like kind of like Kingsbridge or Kingsbridge-ish part of the Bronx. So really quickly, that's where I got my kind of broadcasting chops, was in Lehman College, because Lehman College had an underground college radio station, and I had a college radio show at Lehman College during that time. So it was a hybrid.
Wait, did you attend Lehman?
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the same college and the same junior
high school. Yep.
Son of a... I mean, okay. Go ahead.
The BX produces greatness. That's all we have to say. This is all we have to say. But it's where I cut my chop. But that's beautiful. But that's where I cut my teeth.
Listen, Kay, you can take a break right now. We're just gonna reminisce for a second.
This is the BX show now.
You do that. There are people in the chat coming for you, talking about Miami's gonna come after y'all and your Knicks, but it's okay. You keep going.
Oh, y'all on some whole other business with that part of it. Ain't nobody going for that. But the thing that I remember specifically was like having that college radio show, and that being the impetus for what happened and how I wanted to think about podcasting. So like our radio show was all underground hip hop stuff. It was called I think it was Live from the Basement or something like that. And like I learned so much about mic skills, how to talk directly into your microphone, and how do you project and when not to project and all those things. And Spawn on Me was originally supposed to be an underground radio show or hip hop show that used that as the foundation, the music as the foundation for the conversations around video games. So it's so funny how all of those pieces kind of come together, because it was literally that. I'm still trying to get back to that. To be fair, like we did a show here in Oregon in Portland radio. So Spawnaway was on terrestrial radio here in Oregon for about a year. So like you can get into your car, turn on the AM dial, and we were on the show. We were on your radio.
That is excellent.
Yeah. So it's like it's a wild full circle moment right now of like the college parts and the junior high school parts. It was nuts. That's cool, man. That's real tough.
So friend of the show, Sycamore, has a super chat.
Yep, Sycamore, $10 super chat. He says, I just want the chat to know the Khalif Adams model used to be for the operator in the Modern Warfare.
No, the Khalif Adams model was used for the operator in Modern Warfare.
In Modern Warfare, yes, I said it, Mr. Adams. Which
no, it's true.
Was it really though?
No, they owe me money though.
No, absolutely, and Starfield owes Paris money. I don't know what's going on with these.
I was about to say that Vlad is in the chat. Vlad, we need to talk. You need some money.
Here's the thing, though. Did you ever notice how good mine looked versus how bad Paris's looked?
Ooh.
Oh, Lord.
Like Paris was ashy in space. They just had him out there in space being ashy
with a Russian accent. Okay, but speaking of celebrities that we have here, like you are not off the hook, Mr. K. Asante. Can you bring up a picture of Captain Keys from the Halo show? Can you bring it up?
Cannot.
If you don't want to bring it up,
I will not. Because my screen is like this small, and I'm doing the best I can.
All right, Mr. Khalif, I want you to just in your own time, I want you to Google Captain Keys Halo show.
Nope.
Just do it right now and look at the picture.
It's not worth it. Keep it moving. Paris says he has a lawsuit pending with Bethesda.
Oh my God, it's Captain Keys.
You see it. And then he's tried to lie, right? And he knew the show was getting canceled and he didn't want to tell us. Right?
That is your twin.
Moving forward, ladies.
It's not his twin, it is him.
He is him.
Moving on. We're moving on. We're moving forward.
By the way, What do you think the K in K Asante stands for?
Wow, it's true.
This is not like
It's
come on.
true.
We have a thing on
look.
this show that we call the
this is me-
tinfoil kufi,
Yeah,
and it's
I love
all
it.
the way on right now.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
of
love
course,
it. I
of
love
course.
it. I love
You
it.
never take it off, bro. You never take your kufi off. You need
Don't
to
sleep.
sometimes. Calm down.
Oh my god.
Well, you know what? Speaking of people who need to get lawyers, I want to transition back. See, now he's just watching. He's looking at that picture. He can't unsee
You
it.
can't unsee it. You can't
I
unsee
keep
it.
clicking on new verses, and I'm like, yo,
Listen,
that's Kasante.
even the beard, it's gray in the same spot.
Same spot.
Yeah. Okay. It's been a good show, everybody. Bye. No.
I came in late and ruined it. Captain Asante. Captain Asante. Paris
That's
said
right,
it in the
that's
chat.
right.
Captain,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. That's it now.
Calm down, Vlad. Calm down. It's fine.
Oh,
It's
I
fine.
needed that so bad after this morning. Thank you so much for that. This is what it was doo doo, and that was so much. That was great. Thank you.
So I want to reel us back in if I can.
Yes, please.
I want to talk about some games.
Good luck.
Because good luck. Yes, I want to talk about some games because usually we take recommendations here on this here show, and unfortunately, I took a recommendation from the old Everborn saga, and I've been paying for it ever since. Now
I don't know why you do it. Like, if you want to succeed in life, just look at what I do and then do the opposite.
and do the opposite.
I keep telling
this
people
man
this.
recommended. He recommended, and on this show, we love our indie devs. We talk indie devs all the time. We talk about indie projects and all of this. This is an indie project, and you guys have actually heard us talk about it already before, but it bears repeating. This is a game called Soldiers, but pronounced with an spelled with an OU, as in
It's
soldiers,
actually called
as in,
Soldiers. Okay,
Soul.
sorry. That was
Yes,
that was
that's
my
right,
that
that's
was
right.
my
Yes,
dad
yes.
joke of the day.
Yeah, clearly, and the soul meaning souls like, if you will.
Interesting.
And oh boy, they are not joking around when they say this is a Souls like. So this man is like, okay, you should really play this game. It's an interesting game. It came out in 2022, and right
Nobody
now,
talked about it.
nobody talked about it. And if you were to look around on various storefronts, you will find this game for 59 cents.
I got it for
Interesting.
$6 and thought it was a steal, and then started telling everybody about it. Kay Asante goes and looks on the key provider sites like CD
Yes.
Keys or wherever else. 59 cents.
That's
59
wild.
cents. And I am now, and this was last week, I'm now 22 hours in, and oh boy. Now, the reason why I'm saying I appreciate the recommendation and I also hold it against you is because this is one of the most frustrating games I've ever played. Like it is relentless in its pursuit to teabag you at any moment's notice. It wants you on your knees, it wants you on your back, and it wants to be
Hey,
looking
yo.
at you with that face. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. It wants to be looking at you with that face and go, nope. Any piece of fodder you see on your screen can be your last, and they will make sure they are your last. As you see, hey, Everborn, I'm on the, I think it's the third stage. I'm in the desert stage.
But you're not even trying to not get. See, okay,
Yes.
Khalif, this is the thing
Go ahead,
you
go
don't
ahead,
know.
Go ahead.
No, there's a thing about this show that like there's death, taxes, and bad Kay Asante gameplay clips, right? He is not good at things.
And the best part about
right?
that is he will never show us his footage, but he will always criticize mine.
That's fine, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you don't have something nice to say, don't show it. But the thing is this.
Go ahead, man.
The thing is, you're complaining about how difficult it is,
It
but you
is.
don't even you didn't even block. Look what's happening right now. You could block and push people off of you. You don't do any of that. You just run through, mash the button. By the way,
No.
you
Yeah.
don't. I'm just gonna make a suggestion. It's
Yeah,
too
yeah.
late for you now because you're already down this road. But the game
Oh my
actually
God.
has classes. So
Oh,
you
man.
could play this. You're a scout right now. That's the melee character.
Yes.
You could play
Now,
as a
wouldn't that
mage
s-
or an archer.
Wouldn't that start you
And it
at
changes
the
the
beginning
game.
of the game again?
Yes, you
Or
can't
are
do it
gonna-
now. That's why I said it's too late. For
Yeah.
you have to make
Yeah.
that decision from the beginning. But the game has 3 distinct playstyles. So if you're not like a melee dodge block kind of person, and you're more of an evade person, then you can choose an archer or a mage who's going to have more healing powers and things like that. Like
It
you
took
know how
me
it goes.
20
It's a Souls-like.
hours to get the second jump, man, of the double jump. It took me 20 hours to get the
Wow.
second jump. Okay.
Okay,
And
as
yes.
a matter of fact, I'll tell you, but last I checked, I was 14 or 15 hours into this thing.
Okay.
And you're just getting the second jump now. That is
spend a
what
lot
we
of time
call a
exploring, man.
problem between.
I explore the keyboard and the seat. Yes, I know.
Thank you very much.
I explore, and he's using my jokes against me at this point. This is what happens.
You walked right into it.
I clearly did. I clearly just I did. True.
All right.
But I'll be honest.
I'm exactly, and you can see this.
Uh-huh.
Well, you probably won't be able to see it,
No,
but
it's
I'm
blurry,
exactly
yeah.
14 hours into this thing.
Okay. I spent a lot of time in the when you start the game, you start in a spider cave where there's just a lot of spiders, big spiders, the huge monster boss spider at the end, the whole thing, right? And I spent a lot of time in there going back and forth because I wanted to level up my character, so I kept getting coins, and that's basically how this thing progresses.
Farming.
Yeah, basically farming monsters. Every time you hit a save point, all the monsters come back. You can keep farming them, and the more you do it, the better weapons, the more capabilities you get. You know, eventually you find like a rune that gives you like fire powers and all of this stuff. So I spent a lot of time in the cave farming. So that's why I'm a little. It took me a little longer to get outside to the castle, but I got to be honest, like. This game is insane, bro. Like I'm stuck on this game. I have so many games that I'm still playing, but I keep playing this. Well, also because I'm on the go. I'm in New England for the week, and when you're on the go, you don't play big heavy games. You play very light games because your handheld's able to go further with that. And this thing is like so light on the resource use, but it keeps you like it's something else. It's something else.
That's cool.
So the other thing I'll say is, you don't know this yet because I don't think you're very far into this castle. This Great Pyramid that you're in, bigger and way more difficult than the Spider Cave. So if you had trouble with that, just stay on your P's and Q's here.
But you know what I've noticed though? You know what I've noticed? And I've recently started playing, well, not recently, I'm about 40 hours into Elden Ring, right? So like, you know how in the Elden Ring parlance, they always say you keep going at it until you eventually get good enough to traverse those divides that were really problematic for you. I get a lot more of that here than I do in Elden Ring. Elden Ring, you just keep at it, and eventually you feel the luck of the draw, and you pass that point. I've been able to traverse like the spider boss, kick my butt like 5-6 times until I drank the potion that made me really powerful for a short amount of time. And I was able to traverse that divide relatively with ease at that point.
That's another thing about the game. On the surface, it seems like, okay, it's a 2D platformer. But when you think about the different pendants that you can equip, when you think about the potions that you can drink at the right time, again, like Elden Ring, it really is as complex as you want it to be. And you can play it in those different styles. And this game, not that it came out, but I found out about it because of a Steam sale. With Steam is really good with that. I think Xbox and PlayStation can learn how to surface like independent content from Steam a lot. But it came out in a week where Game Pass released Flintlock, which I was super excited for, Path of the Goddess, which I was interested in, and Dungeons of Hinterberg, which is very, very good. I downloaded all three of those while I was waiting for them to download. I said, let me try out this game. I got it for $6. It was one of those things where you buy it and it's supposed to go in your backlog. You know those games you buy that you just actually never really play, but the sale looked good, so you tell yourself you're going to play it one day. But anyway, I tried this, and I have not been able to put it down since. Right? Even though I know those other games are waiting for me, even though Modern Warfare 3 just went in the Game Pass and I didn't play that when it came out, this is the only thing.
You won't find the campaign of that game. You'll keep looking. They'll just keep throwing other things at you.
Exactly. We'll come to that later. But the point that I'm making is, even when I tried to play those other games, I'm over there thinking about this. So I realized this just has to get no life until I get through it. I'm about 21% of the way through, but like, and it has an interesting story, but it doesn't like annoy you with the story where you're just reading through walls of text. But there is a mystery going on. There's a big thing that happens in the beginning that I'm like, that's ballsy, right? You know, in the cave. Yeah. I'm like, oh, right. So without spoiling it, but it is just. It is so good that I do not understand, like, where were we all And this is not
Yeah,
on the
what
media
happened?
because we were
What happened?
podcasting in 2022 and we didn't know
Yeah.
about it. And we're
Yeah.
supposed to be the guys that know about indie stuff. Like,
right.
how did this go against the radar? So I had this theory that writ large, the industry, because there's so much content that comes out, they treat indie games like Hollywood treats black actors, which is we got one hot one at a time, and we're just gonna give all the roles and accolades to that one.
So who was Halle
actor.
Berry in 2022? What did you say?
and then obviously the Denzels and those guys, they stick through it, but it's one big guy at a time, and then they move on to the next one, and that's what happens with indie games. They just pick who's the indie game this year we're going to be in love with, and then all the other ones nobody knows about because there's just so much content that comes out. I just don't understand how a game could be this good and none of us know about it.
On that point, you know who the indie game du jour is this year, right? Balatro.
Sure.
Balatro of the year. Which let's not get it twisted. Well deserved. Amazing game. Can't stop playing. Love that game. But you do make a point. I wonder what in 2022.
2021 was Death's Door. 2022 was the Lamb thing. What do you call that?
Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb. Yes, that was the game that got all the indie accolades.
Hey, but Tunic was also there in 2022.
Yeah, but it
Tunic
wasn't.
was also there.
Tunic should have got more love than it did.
It should have, but it didn't. But yeah, so this just didn't win the sort of eyeball lottery. So I want to do whatever I can to tell everybody, try this game. You will not be disappointed.
Souls like the Bokeem Woodbine of video games.
This right now, if I know it didn't come out this year, but this is currently my game of the year.
That's fantastic.
That is how good I would say this game is.
So Everborn, you should know I did I checked the contacts and I did reach out to the developer and I haven't heard back yet. Retroforge, yeah. I haven't heard back yet from them, but I would love to have them on the show. Talk to them about the game that seems to have captured our life in 2024, even though they made it in 2022 and nobody paid attention to it, which is so unfortunate. But yes, one thing you'll notice, Khalif, on this show, this is what we do. Similarly, this is his game that has caught his eye. Mine was Fading Afternoon, a Yakuza yes, it also a 2D side-scrolling game, very much systems upon systems, but surprises you with its simplicity of the way it comes off, but then blows your mind with all the systems on display. Fading Afternoon was mine. This is his. We love finding these gems that, when people buy it, developers eat from it, actually eat, and not some corporation that that is looking for more ROI. This is directly translated into that. So yeah, it's literally been eating my life on this one.
That's cool.
I both love it and hate you at the same time, everyone, because this thing is frustrating as hell, boy. Oh,
you're all welcome.
That's cool. Yes, I love hearing stories about games like that are under the radar and finally going to find an audience. So
yeah,
hopefully these are both of those will have a bunch of people kind of checking it out.
Absolutely. Now you joined us a little later. Let's ask you what games have been keeping you busy this week. What you've been playing?
I've been knee deep in Predecessor again, trying to get people to understand what lanes are and roles and how to ward and all that stuff. So that's been fun. So I've been jumping between that, college football a ton, playing a bunch of that, which has been great. What was the thing I just started playing last night actually? What is it? It's a game that's kind of built on British humor.
Okay.
It's such a oh god, it's gonna kill me.
When you say a game based on British humor, everybody goes Fable?
No, so it's I wish it was Fable, man. Wouldn't that be great if Fable was dropping already?
But let me ask you, what would you tell if it was?
If it was Fable? I mean, I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, exactly. So the tinfoil kufi is on.
Sometimes when you have dreams, they become fables. Haha.
You see, now we better hope Idle Sloth is not listening, because now we're gonna get an article saying Khalif Adams confirms that he is currently playing Fable.
I mean, this is what it's called. Thank goodness you're here.
Thank goodness you're here. Okay.
Is the name of that game, which is super super cute and a lot of fun. So I've been running through a lot of games, going back into COD, feeling old, playing that like a monster. So
my son, he always tries to get me to play COD.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, let's play Halo, because Halo's where I know I can win.
Yeah.
But like, I am not built for what today's COD, like the hand-eye reflexes are not what they used to be.
Yeah.
All of this twitch kind of move back and forth, I can't do it. And they're just good at it.
It's a different. I mean, I'm decent at this point. Like, I was never great at COD. Because I'm a weird person where I like to play by the actual rules of a game. Like, I'm not bunny hopping. I'm not drop shotting. I'm not trying to quick scope you and do all that stuff. Because I feel like those are mechanics that people have used because they know they work, and because the system will let them do it. It lets them get away with it, and it feels dirty to do it. I'm a traditionalist in those ways, where I'm like, if I have a system here and I can abuse it, I am not an abuser of systems when it comes to video games in that way. Like, I don't really cheat in those ways. But I feel you on that.
I'm opposite of you. If it is available to me, I am using it.
You're in the game. That's reasonable.
Absolutely.
That's reasonable.
I see Link in the chat saying all Halo players know how to do is spam grenades. Yes, you throw a grenade behind something, you rush them with the shotgun, and when you get close enough, you hit them with the melee. This is known. This is like the jump kick sweep of Street Fighter.
Agreed.
Right? This is just how you're supposed to do these things. I'm sorry. Khalif, go ahead.
No, you're right, though. I mean, and that's the reason, like, I think that there's a real difference between tactics and subverting systems. And I think subverting systems is fine. Like, again, if it's available to you, you should be able to do it. If the developers have let it stay in, then you should be able to do it. But I just think you're a dirty human being if you do it.
and I am still, let me tell you something.
I would judge
when I
you.
played, do you know that there were communities built around finding like workarounds in Elden Ring, where you can spam this boss in this way, like if you like with Maug, right? If you had to take off all your clothes because you'd be too heavy. Wait a minute. You'd be too heavy. And if you did, you could make a certain jump that would allow you to jump over the fence and not enter the door. And if you did that, if you don't enter through the door, he does not get aggroed. Right? So you can go and fight him and move back and forth and attack him. They patched this out by moving the pillars a little farther apart. But these are things you could do. The fire giant, right?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
See, unfortunately, I would judge you on that one too. That's
I don't care. Are you an Elden Lord?
Weirdly,
are you an Elden Lord? That's all I want to know.
I would not judge him. I've like games like Elden Ring. Do whatever you want. Whatever by Malcolm X to by all means necessary, any means necessary. Do what you need to do in Elden Ring. Any Souls-like game where you can grief the hell out of something, please do it. Please do it.
I had never been so angry because I famously was. It took me like 4 or 5 months to beat Elden Ring, and 2.5 of those months were on the fire giant. Yeah. I would come here every week and complain about how the fire giant was cheating, right? And because there was a cheat for him, not a cheat, but like a way to spam him that would get him to jump off the cliff and kill himself, right? But by the time I got up to him, they had patched that out. So I had no choice but to do it the right way.
But you know what?
Took me 2.5 months.
But at least you know that you could do it now.
Yes.
Yes. Now you can walk around and claim that you're an Elden Lord, and that and
I
$5
don't have to claim I am.
Sure,
Are you?
and that and $5 will get you a sandwich at your local.
That's fine.
But here's
That's
the
fine.
thing,
It's a secret
Saga.
club.
Here's the thing, Saga. You can say that you are an Elden Lord, but can you say you are a captain?
Oh, stop it! We're moving forward.
Because Kay can say he's a captain, and you cannot say you're a captain.
Oh,
That
Lord.
is true.
Y'all gonna hold it against me for the rest of my
No,
life.
we are lifting you up, brother. We are giving you literally giving you the flowers you deserve. You know how hard it is to get into the space military?
Oh, Lord. Lord help us. Okay, all right.
Sante's like, man, I should have never gave this Negro the keys to come into this house.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Everborn, they're asking, how about the DLC, sir, Mr. Elden Lord? Where's the DLC love, man?
When is FromSoft gonna support cross save? It's a very easy thing to do. Everybody does it. So what I'm not gonna do, right? Like the way my time is set up, I need to be able to play back and forth between the PC or the TV, even if they don't give me cross buy, that's fine. But cross save, I need to be able to go back and forth between the handheld, and they don't have cross progression like we're in the 1940s or something, and so their game is just not going to get purchased. I'd be happy to purchase it, but I'm not going to start over because I need to also that would mean I'd have to buy it on Steam and start from scratch, and I'm not doing that. There's no chance.
Here's a crazy thing that popped up that was like a wild use case kind of thing that I agree with you, Saga, about like everyone should have cross saves, cross progress. I re-downloaded Borderlands 3 last night on my PlayStation 5. I know I have played through a chunk, like most of this game before. Had to re-download my save from the PS5 cloud. Was like, dope, I'm going to jump back into this game. The PS4 save does not translate to the PS5 game. I don't understand how they did not, unless there's a fix that I just don't know, or if there's a migration something to make that happen. But I would literally was like, why doesn't this work? Like, it's on the same console. The game is backwards compatible. You would let me download the PS4 version of the game, like, and I can't play the PS5 version of the
Didn't
save.
they do the same? Isn't that the same thing with Ghost of Tsushima? Same thing. People gave up their PS4s, right?
Yeah.
Pick up a PS5, wanting to continue the game, but the save did not go to the cloud, so you lost your whole thing. I'm just like,
it's madness. I straight deleted that joint right after. I was like, word. You haven't figured this out since 2000. What? Okay. I was gonna play you, and now I'm not playing you, and I'm not buying the rest of the DLC. Whatever.
Well, but this is the new world we live in right now.
No, you should know how to do it. You got Kevin Hart. You can make it happen.
I want to ask you a question, Khalif, because this is a thing that I bring up, and I got this whole thing going. It's called the CEG movement, right? It is.
We call him Christopher Columbus. He sees what's there and then likes to rebrand it. But continue. Go ahead.
I'm not rebranding anything. It was called this long before. Every review of the Steam Deck you see, they call it console. So CEG, I consider myself a console experience gamer, right?
Oh, okay.
I have recently this year donated my PS5 and Xbox to the living room, so the kids have that now.
Yep.
And I have put a big 4090 PC in the bedroom.
Dang.
With the RGB lights and everything.
What?
Right. Yeah, that took some convincing from Lady Everborn. But
I was gonna say, Lady Everborn is a real one for letting you do that one.
Listen. It's called weaponizing guilt. So that's how you get things done in a marriage. All right. But
I'm laughing because you're not wrong.
Exactly. Chaos is allowed.
Chaos. Okay. Oh, when we do our relationship podcast, this is going to be fantastic. Anyway,
listen,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So I got to agree with it. So it's connected to the OLED, right? The LG CX, 120 hertz, 4K, all HDR, all that. The 4090 PC. And then I got the handheld. It was the Steam Deck, but now it's the Ally X. But I'm just using Steam. And I say all this to say, all these things that we're being promised about what the future of like console gaming could be in terms of cross progression, play anywhere, right? Things like this, right?
And now he's
You
going to literally
realize
use my
at-
talking point.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Wait a
Go
minute.
ahead. Go
So,
ahead.
by the way, the PC setup is
Uh-huh.
the PC launches. It runs one app, and that is Steam in big picture mode.
big
So when
picture
the
mode,
PC
yes,
starts
yes.
straight to big picture mode, I
Yep.
use a controller to turn it on. Well, the PC stays on. It just goes to sleep and wake, right? So, but when I press the Xbox button on the controller, the PC wakes up. The TV's on. I'm straight in big picture mode. 99% of the time, I'm only using a controller. I'm not using mouse and keyboard. These PC guys get mad at me.
Baby. Oh, baby.
But that's fine. That's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
But my
Keep
point
going,
is,
keep going.
I'm using the PC. I'm not using any other launchers.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm using the PC as a console. Single purpose device, only game on it. There's no Word, there's no nothing installed on it. And then and then I go back and forth to the handle. And I'm only saying all this to say, I hear this thing about the future of an Xbox handheld. I hear this thing about what you're talking about with saves between PS4 and PS5. I hear about cross buy and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's the future or whatever. But like, Steam is doing that right now today. I have a unified user
and I
experience.
said this to you many shows ago, and you looked at me like a troglodyte.
All right,
Many shows ago, I said this to you.
I have
Oh,
a
man.
single user experience across all the device. My library is my library. I don't have to think about whether a game is also available on PC and console. Because when let's say I'm a Sonic guy, right? You see behind me, right? Let's say I buy Sonic Generations, right? And that, if I buy it on console or my Xbox to play it on my TV, I don't have access to it, even in the Xbox store, because it's not cross-buy. It's not. So I'd have to buy it again, but it doesn't. It also doesn't support cross-save. If I did something like what's it called, Diablo, before they were acquired by Microsoft, that has cross progression, but it doesn't have cross buy. So now I got to double pay for the game if I want to play it on the handheld and play it on the console. If I go and I play Starfield, right, that works as expected. I could go and pick it up on the PC. I could pick it up on the handheld. I could do all that stuff, but that's only guaranteed with stuff that Microsoft owns, and we can't expect Microsoft to buy everybody to force that on the industry. And so you have these things where you either have to double dip, or you just buy it one place and then have to buy it in another place, and then your save still won't transfer. And what I'm saying is, if I want a unified experience, if I want a handheld, if I want to be able to play on the TV with a single user interface, saves carry over, I don't have to worry about generations or whatever. Your library is your library and it follows you everywhere. That's happening right now.
Now I'm upset.
Wait a minute.
I'm genuinely no, sir.
I just want to finalize this point.
Now I am upset now
the point
because you know what I said? I said generations are like when a Honda Civic gets heated seats and people fight about it. It's been over there for a long ass time, and then y'all get it.
Fine,
now you want to
define let's it like not pretend I didn't agree and say once the consoles went to x86, we were in a world of min spec and not generations anymore. I agree with you, but
snap.
that's not my point. My point is all the stuff we're being promised on the console side from all the console manufacturers about of the future of where things is going. That's today, and you can have the console experience if you stay in big picture mode, and so. And this was my whole issue with the whole multi-platform stuff, which I'm not trying to re-adjudicate now. But once you go into that realm of these things are just endpoints, it's just an edge, then as the consumer, we have to say, well, if the hardware is just an edge, then I'm going to go where the best experience is, the most cohesive experience is. And the best store, the most cohesive experience, the thing that is promised, what is giving me the things today that I'm being promised for years from now, it's not where I have my 20+ year history, right?
I have a point to that speaks to that too. So it's funny because console gaming, and again, like I play on everything. I do not believe in playing on mouse and keys on a PC because I feel like that makes me feel like makes me feel like I'm doing work. I'm like, give me a spreadsheet if you're going to make me do that. But it was interesting to hear you talk about that for a couple of different reasons. One, I used to work at Intel in the gaming division for a couple of years. And one of the things that we would continue to try to do was find some feature sets that would wind up being things that you would kind of want a gamer to understand and to just have as a part of the PC experience. And it was really kind of fascinating to see that many of the features that you see on console, we were trying to implement in gaming chipsets that we were trying to produce. So it would be stuff like having your game basically be in a frozen state and you can come back to it whenever you want to, right?
Points,
restore points, stuff like that. Like how do you integrate those things into the PC experience? Because I think PC experience is for the most part really about fidelity and less about comfort, right? I love the fact that you have a PC in the living room. Most folks aren't going to do that. I have a NUC in my living room right now that serves as one of those. And again, if you're a person who's not familiar with NUCs, it's those really small PCs. I think that they are the perfect solution for actual like living room gaming.
And that's the first thing I said to Mr. Everborn Saga when he wanted to do this. I said, go get yourself a mini PC, a NUC.
Yeah,
powerful machine, little thing, set top box like. What did he do?
Nope.
He rolled a 4090.
That's not how
RGBs.
does things.
I appreciate it though.
I'm gonna do it.
I appreciate it though.
Thank you.
I appreciate it though because I there's no my like TV stand would not let me do it. But the thing that I think is what most players should want, because I am a advocate for. I don't like crossplay. I think crossplay actually isn't that great in terms of the way it's implemented, especially between PC and console, because PC has such a big advantage, especially when it comes to, movement and things like that in terms of aiming, especially playing first-person shooters. Cross saves and cross progression, I think, is the thing that every player should be asking for every game moving forward. It is the thing that makes everything work better. You have all the conversations about the edge and the endpoints part of it. That's great. The thing that I think every gamer should be asking for across the board, no matter what console you play on, is the thing that PC has that no one else has figured out is the Steam sale. And this, again, it's not platform specific, but like the Steam sale for games and the ability for you to, one, refund things in a quick and easy manner. Two, at certain parts of the year, you're going to get a massive discount on some of the best games on the planet. Console has never gotten that right. They haven't even tried because they're like, yo, we know you have to pay money for this thing. And if you're going to do it, you're not going to get a big discount. It is very rare, unless it's a Black Friday deal, to see massive, en masse discounts like you've seen in the Steam store. And I think that would be the biggest thing that, I would advocate people to say, like, this is what we want. Because I think, the summer sales stuff that you see on, like Link says in the chat, the summer sale stuff are pretty good. They're still not Steam sale-esque. Like, you can get a full price game for like $20. It's a little bit out of its launch window for sure, but like the stuff that's in the back catalog, those things are just so good. Like you can't defeat those things. So I would say people need to really push for that.
Steam is the only store that has people buy stuff that they never use just because the sales are so good.
That's the thing.
So good.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
Yep. 1,000%.
But
real quick, let me interject
ahead.
with the MJ Dark. He brings up a $5 super chat and he says, "Let me tell you about a store called Steam. I call it the game console, the console game store. You can buy games using the A button, using a Steam Deck. Christopher Everett, Columbus Saga."
Wow.
Damn right.
Yes, sir. And then, of course, Slow-Mo Backslap, he joins us as well. $5 super chat. He says a week before Everborn spent nearly $4,000 on his PC, he was on
It
this
was more than
show
4,000 with
telling
tax.
me,
Just FYI.
telling me PC gaming was too expensive. We call it Ever Flip Flop Saga. Yes,
Wow.
Wait a
Oh
minute.
my God.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
See, this is
That
one
is
thing you must
not-
learn, Kelly.
That is
Wow.
that's
The
a rewriting
chat-
in history.
The chat is savage. Chat.
Oh, they come for him with
Yo.
the fire of 1,000 suns because he'll be the first to be out there with his chest, and then the next week he'll be the polar opposite of what
Y'all are
he's
like
saying.
the Illuminati. Jesus.
They come for
They come for
F2
you, boy.
slow-mo. But the thing is, that is a rewriting of history.
okay.
What we were talking about
Yes,
was
yes, sir.
PC elitists and them shaming new people who want to get into this thing. And my whole thing with this whole CEG thing that I'm saying, right?
Yeah, the
I didn't make up the
rebranding,
term
yes.
console experience. What I am saying is there are a lot of people that were like me, console troglodytes. We just think PC is too, like, it's too black box. It is too intimidating. It's too. You see the look you have on your face right now. That look you have on your face right there is what pushes people away, right? So the thing is,
Not the $4,000 PC you
wait a
built
minute.
with a 4090.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
And then the PC guys will come in and tell you gotta spend this amount. You gotta do this. It's not that easy. You could build a PC.
$1,000, man.
Don't go do a pre-built and all of that. And what I'm saying is, what I'm just trying to say to the people who have trepidation about making the jump over to PC is that the waters are nice and it is not as complex as these guys try to make it out to be, right? Because some people don't want to hear all that extra information. And because you guys swim in those waters, you talk about that extra information like it's nothing, but it can be intimidating for people. So console experience is what some people are looking for. Khalif has his hand raised. And then you
Sure, Khalif, please go for it. Go ahead.
I just love how Everborn just went on that wonderful diatribe where basically he needed to say, hey, did you understand that when I talk about these things, this is a case of historical fiction like Assassin's Creed?
Yes.
I appreciate it though. It's real though. But he's not wrong. Again, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. He's just the wrong messenger. Because he'll buy a $4,000 PC and put it in his bedroom,
Listen,
and I'm like, the message of sending it to
because
jumping in the water. Let me finish. People jumping into the waters is a good thing. You can get all these different devices that can help you jump your foot into the waters. It's all good. This guy's like 4K 4090. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You could buy like an $800 Nook, put it next to your console, and you'll be right as rain, connected to a controller, and you're good as gold. But this man insists on going the deepest of the deepest water and goes, trust me, this is how it's done. Calm down, man. I have a feeling your setup alone is what pushes people away. Like, what are you doing?
But you don't have to have my setup. The whole point is you want the experience with a rig that you can afford, right? So your only limitation when you go to PC is just the rig that you want to buy or build. That's
He's future-proofing his fun. Future-proofing your fun.
Which I don't disagree on. I don't disagree on that. Risking for the biscuit, three Australian dollary dues, as they call them. He says, I'm not sure I appreciate this slander, sirs. He's a console slander. He claims to be the last console person still left alive because all of us are moving to PC or whatnot.
I'm with you, brother. I'm still with you, Risket.
For the record, I still play my Xbox Series S and X. I still play my PS5. I play all these games on all these different platforms. It just so happens where I happen to be is where I play, right? So
I'm not gonna go into the basement all the time when I want to go play stuff, unless I want to go play something really, really pretty at its highest fidelity. Like I started when we did reviews for Senua's Saga of Hellblade 2. I played 90% of that game on PC. I was uncomfortable though because I was sitting in this goddamn chair instead of on my couch on my console. But again, because the cross progression was there, I can go in and finish it up
Switch wherever you want. That's
and go switch
absolutely-
whenever you want.
Yep,
So
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
Can we-
Link,
can we-
2000
can we-
chat. He says, "I do appreciate this console standard, sir."
Absolutely.
There
Can
you
we
go.
highlight Dorian Gray's comment?
Let me see here. Let me find Dorian's comment.
Couple
this is-
of 3 or 4 above Link's super chat.
Everborn, is this
Yes.
one? Everborn is streamlining his midlife crisis.
Are we
My
Yeah,
midlife crisis is a Corvette C8, sir. Just give me like,
yeah,
or
yeah.
it's the Cybertruck. Give me 2 years.
Ooh,
Oh,
It'll
my
be full
God.
midlife
that's
crisis.
really good.
You know what my kids call a Cybertruck? They call that the Minecraft car. That's what they call that.
Wow.
That's what they call both of my kids call that the Minecraft car. Anyway, let us move
That's-
forward.
Branding, man. Branding
Yes.
is good, right?
So
Yes.
the whole point, the whole point, and we can move on,
Yes, sir.
is CEG is not about me. It is about those people who are enthusiasts like us, spend a lot of money on this hobby, have the big 4K TVs, but like me, like Khalif, when you're done work at the end of the day, you don't want to still be at your desk,
Right.
right? You want a game in the living room. You want a game on a controller. You want a game with a simple experience where you press the button and go, but you love this hobby, so you'll invest a lot into it, right? And I think there are a lot of people who would go to PC were it the experience simpler. And I'm saying this, the experience is simple, and don't let these guys tell you about all this other stuff that is not really important, where you can press the button and go big picture mode. That's what it's about. It's not about me. It is a movement about people who want the console experience
and once again,
to
and
game
once
in the
again-
living room on the PC and the handheld.
Once again, we will say that big picture mode was created in 2007 or something like that.
But I never said that.
No. I let you speak. It's been available since before you even knew it existed. The day the Steam Deck showed up, and I was like, "Yo, this is exactly where you should go." You went lies. I talked to you about building a set-top box in your living room, putting big picture mode on it, and calling it a day. You swore up and down I was ridiculous, and then you discovered it for yourself, and then you tried to Christopher Columbus.
But
and call
see,
it a barrel.
this is
Let us
the
move
red
forward,
herring.
ladies and
No. We're gonna do this, and then we'll move on. This is the
No.
red herring, Khalif, because you're the judge now. So,
here we go.
Your Honor, if I may, on redirect, address what the
We're
captain
not
said.
going any further.
Now, okay, this is it, and then we can move on. Look, at the end of the day, the red herring is slow-mo and K and all the CEG haters want to make it about me, like I'm claiming something, right? All I'm saying is there is
you taking
there
something that
is,
exists,
but I'm
and
not.
calling it
I'm not.
something
I'm not. I keep
yourself.
saying this every week, and chat, I would love you to back me up.
Uh-huh.
I am not saying I invented this. What I am saying is that people don't know this exists. You guys play in the waters.
So
You
just
know.
call
Wait a
it
minute.
big picture
Wait
mode
a
and
minute.
move forward.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Every Steam Deck review you have seen, they say what? Console-like, right? They say console-like experience, right?
Okay.
And so if I say there is a group of gamers out there that would prefer a console-like experience on PC, that is all I'm saying. I'm not saying I own it. I'm not saying I invented it.
MJ
It's been
Dark
around long
put
before
out
me,
the chat.
and
He
there are
says,
people
"We
that don't
got
know this
receipts.
exists.
We got receipts. Everborn flip flop saga. All PC.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
You see, if I was the only one coming for his neck, that'd be different.
No. But see,
we're gonna move forward.
your evidence is how they treat Sonic on this channel, right?
Oh,
Just because
Lord.
Everborn likes it, then the whole chat is again, or half the chat. Half the chat is with me. But let's move on.
Sure.
I'm right. You're wrong. Okay.
Yes. I understand. You know what? One day maybe you'll get Gabe to be on your side, and he'll rebrand his big picture mode to CEG. Then you'll have a
Gaben.
point. Until then,
Gaben.
it's called big picture mode. Let's keep it moving, ladies and gentlemen. So
Oh, it's Gaben.
let me and there's so much to talk about in gaming, but I wanted to.
Are you looking down at the screen, or are you frozen? Okay,
No,
you were
it
frozen.
freezes from time to time. Apologies. Yeah, I wanted to quickly just talk about a few stories that are happening in gaming before we move on. We're not gonna make this a long show this week because it's the summertime, people on vacation. It is what it is. But I do want to talk about the whole Bungie thing and all of that, because that really blew up and turned into something ridiculous. Of course, and there are some super chats that I quickly got to get to, so let's do that real quick. So let's see. Now, is it? I always get this wrong. Is it Sapho or is it Sapho? Correct me if I'm wrong here. $2 super chat. You tell me, everybody. How am I saying this name?
I'm gonna go with Sapho, but
see, that's what I was thinking.
Correct us if we're phonetically wrong.
Yes, he says. Speaking of PC, what on earth is going on at Intel? Well, see, since we have a person who used to work at Intel, maybe he may choose to plead the fifth on this one, or he may have some thoughts. What do you think, Khalif? What is going on with Intel?
I mean, Intel is going through a hard time. Like I can only speak of the gaming division when I was there. I worked in the VR and AR division. In the overall gaming division. But I think the things that were, and I haven't been there for a while, but the things that were the biggest issue were everyone's chipsets were getting smaller. Intel was having a hard time matching and kind of meeting the demand, because they were still kind of in a big hole when it came to supply. AMD had gotten a lot faster when it came to getting everyone was trying to get to 6 nanometer for a long period of time. But everyone was also trying to figure out what's going to be the balance between power and speed, which is always the case. So Intel built a whole, because I'm in Oregon too, so they built a whole foundry here to kind of help offset the supply and demand thing. And I still think that they're just behind the 8 ball when it comes to that. That's a big thing. We've also seen, multiple rounds of layoffs at Intel over the past couple of years. They may not have been as big, and they haven't coincided with what we've seen in the video game space in general. But when Intel lays off, they lay off a ton, because I don't know if those are all U.S. based employees, but Intel, even here in Oregon, is the biggest kind of employer here. And we have a ton of people here who work at the plant and who work at the company. So, it's an ebb and flow kind of thing. I think with the conversations around us still being, air quotes, in the recession, people have, still trying to get out of the specter of overhiring during COVID. There's a lot of things in that mix.
ARM being the new hot, sexy thing that everybody talks about.
Yeah, all those things are factors, right? You saw even Apple for a quick second right before they started to make their own chipset. They were Intel based. Company, and they moved away from that to build their own chipset. So there's been a lot of things in the mix that have happened over the past 5 to 6 years that might be a lead up to causing a thing like this. I don't think Intel is going out of business, right? They can't. No, but I do. Yeah, but I do think that they're going through a real big restructuring period. And when you do that, you lose a lot of people, and it's sad to hear alongside the conversation we'll dig into around Bungie. But it's right now is a hard time to be in tech, unless you are in the kind of San Francisco bubble, unless you're in that VC space, or unless because hardware is super hard to do and continues to be really hard. Video games, if you just keep it to video games, software is just really difficult because the multiple factors. So yeah, it's hard for the folks in Intel, and I'm sure I know at least probably 1 or 2 people who probably got laid off in that last round. So shout out to everybody still trying to push through and make some dope stuff happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, same thing going on in fintech.
Yeah.
Just all around.
Slow-mo backslap. He's been a member for 5 months. He says if considering history, Everborn Saga talking about all his CEG stuff, Everborn will build a PC tomorrow. Yes, don't worry. He'll be back here for y'all to come at his next. Soon enough. Don't worry about it.
You're a neutral party here. You see how they're against me, right? For no reason.
For no reason.
It feels like anytime I'm on a show with Paris. This
is what I'm saying.
No reason at all.
People pick a side, and that's all you can do.
It's no reason at all. No reason at all. But you know what? Not to continue down the path of sadness, but unfortunately, we do have some sad news in the news in general, and it begs talking about.
Before you move on, Intel, and you touched on this a little bit, but what does the future look like if Qualcomm continues to make inroads on ARMs? Because there are a lot of like ARM chips that are being used in data centers. There are a lot of and it doesn't seem like, so there's always this thing, right? Like, could Qualcomm get powerful enough before Intel got efficient enough, right? And it seems like with these new Surface, I don't know why they call it Copilot PCs, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Surface.
It seems like with these new ARM PCs that, like, from a power perspective, like Qualcomm has caught up, right? And where they're not there on the GPU state, but that's not an Intel thing anyway. Intel's not there on the graphics side, but in terms of power and multi-core stuff, like they're right there. And they're still efficient, and Intel hasn't been able to do that. So I say that to say, what does the future for Intel look like if the whole Wintel thing is not as prominent as it was for them?
I think the biggest kind of battle is exactly what you talked about. It is size to efficiency to power. It's like that equation is always going to be in the mix, right? So you're trying to get your TDP in a really good spot so that you can consistently build upon making the form factor. For folks who aren't in the PC space, you're always battling power to heat, right? It's always about heat dissipation. It's always about pulling that stuff out so that you can make your chipsets run as efficiently as you want. Speaking to Qualcomm and all of their stuff, like, this is the thing that is the conversation in every room at Intel. Like, this is the one that they are talking about like, and again, with a grain of salt, I haven't been there for at least 5 to 6 years. But like, the thing that we would talk about always was like, we got to get smaller, we got to get faster, we got to get more efficient. That was because anybody else who comes in after you and kind of comes in to disrupt that market with the market hold that you have, that's going to be the thing that takes you out. So they're going to have to figure those parts out. It's going to have to be about how do you get smaller, faster, and keep up. They've tried to do it in other facets, right? Like they tried to do it on the GPU side with the Arc GPUs for a bit, which didn't really feel like they were kind of in that mix either yet, right? But the thing I love about what Intel does is like their R&D teams are really, really good. Like the teams who are trying to build out the new chipsets for the future, they are looking at all of those things at least 10 years out. So you're looking at those conversations and being like, well, we know this is coming. We know that this is going to be a factor in what we're trying to do. How do we figure out how to bridge that gap before everybody else? It just takes them a lot longer to do because they didn't have a lot of resources. They've been trying to get back out of the red for a long period of time. So they're still playing catch up. And I think when you're playing catch up, you don't have a lot of time to innovate.
So final question for me, real quick. Final question for me on that. What is the breaking point that makes Intel go, you know what, we're rolling ARM chips as well? I know AMD's been playing in that water. They're talking about it all the time. Now they're just integrating NPUs into x86 chips. When do they all just go, okay, we give up the ghost? We're not x86 anymore. We'll roll our own ARM architecture.
I mean, once they see that they have run out of space in the market. Like once you get boxed out of the market, you have to pivot in a way that's going to keep you relevant and is going to keep all of your employees available. And and the biggest conversation, if you're going to talk about capitalism, is you got to figure out how to keep your stockholders right. So when the stockholders are like, yo, we're losing so much money that you need to make a pivot, that's when you'll see a pivot.
The problem is, and I know we got to move on, Kay. I'll just say this and we can move on.
I love this. I love talking this nerdy stuff because gaming folks don't talk about this nerdy stuff in this way.
Right. And so you said two things. One of them was, efficiency and TDPs and things like that. And many people think, well, they're running like servers, right? They're running on desktop PCs. Why do they care about TDP? Like these data centers, some of their biggest cost is their electricity bill.
Yeah.
Right?
And cooling.
And so, right. And so efficiency makes, forget about licensing, forget about how much the chips cost. if they run more efficiently, it's going to be cheaper overall for the Googles and Microsofts and other cloud providers of the world. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it is so difficult for incumbents to sort of kill their own babies, as they call it, right? Because how do you draw the line of, you talked about it, capitalism, shareholders, or whatever. Hey, we have another product that is going to kill our product that we are number one at making. And then once they play in the ARM waters, can they go? Do they even have the ability and knowledge and know-how and fabricators to go head-to-head with Qualcomm, who's been doing this for billions of devices? Yes, they have scale and they have all these things, but it's not a switch that you flip just to say we're going to do ARM right now. And again, once you ask people to go in that waters, you have to say, we're going to do ARM now, and it's going to be better than what you're getting. And that in and of itself is a tall order. So I'm not saying like, doom and gloom, but gloom.
Gloom.
I mean, last point that I'll share about that, and that's a great point, Saga, is people forget, and when they talk about, I'll even juxtapose, gaming companies and these larger hardware manufacturers, right? Like, because people tell developers all the time, just fix it. Right, like it can't be that. It can't be that hard. It can't be that hard. You ain't been
doing the education,
right? It can't be that hard to figure out how to change this whole system that you built around 4 or 5 years of an engine that you want to kind of do this thing. Think about how long it takes a gaming company that has massive resources to be able to do that. How slow that is. 10 times that with a company like Intel. That is a very slow freighter, like ocean liner that you're trying to turn to potentially move in a direction that is going to benefit them potentially in the future with a chipset like ARM. And then you have to convince so many layers of the funnel to say yes before you can even have a conversation about changing your chipset away from what you've been known for, even if it is the most efficient business practice that you can probably potentially go into. There are so many factors to all of that stuff. So like, if it were to happen, you would have to start now to even get there. But also, we're all betting on ARM, and we don't know what's going to come after ARM, right? Yeah. And that's the thing that you have to try to figure out too, is like, you're always trying to future-proof yourself as much as you possibly can. You're looking at the market and trying to figure out where players are and where PC manufacturers are. You also have to try to figure out what happens when global issues happen, because there was a big silicon deficit around the world for a long period of time that messed up everybody and it hurt Intel a lot. So it winds up you have to factor all of those things in before you make a big decision that then potentially changes the forecasting for what your business is going to wind up being. They could do it. I'm sure the people who are in Intel right now are looking at versions of the architecture and being like, how do we mimic some of this stuff and potentially steal a little bit of tech here, steal a little bit of tech here and try to do that, because that's what everybody does. But the only folks who you see not have to do that really has been NVIDIA. Like NVIDIA hasn't have to do that because they have been so far and ahead for a lot of those conversations that even when AMD is still pulling in great numbers and still has a lot of efficiencies and even sometimes even better pipelines technology perspective in a technology perspective, NVIDIA has name recognition, has clout, and their stock prices are really, really good right now. Not good for us, but like they're high for an investor.
Right? I mean, did you see recently a conversation with Jensen where he basically he kicked all the people that brought him to the dance to the curb. Look at these gaming graphics cards. How?
Jensen right now is like the Vince McMahon gif when he walks through the curtain. He can do whatever he wants at this point, and NVIDIA can do whatever they want because they figured it out.
If you pay attention to that stock, it doubles every 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, just as someone who like pays attention to the market a little bit, I like. It can't keep growing like that forever, and I wonder what the correction is like on NVIDIA, even though they'll probably continue to be on top, because like the peaks and troughs, like these peaks are crazy. It makes me worry about what the trough is going to be. Anyway,
Capono
let's
said
move
it
on.
really quickly.
Yeah.
Capono said it in the chat. He was like, even NVIDIA knows the AI bubble won't last.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
If you wind up seeing the AI bubble really not take over in those ways, they won't lose a ton of market share because they already have market share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even if AI dies tomorrow, they are still the GPU that's in most data centers. They are still going to be consumer facing in the ways that they do it. And think about this: before AI really became a thing, people were still every 6 months when they would drop a new card, or every year basically they would drop a new card. People were upgrading even when they didn't even need to upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you got it. Oh, you put the
They're
word
good at
super
that
on
marketing.
it.
They're
You put the
good
word
at that
super
market.
on that card. Oh, I'm gonna buy that super card is because the card that I just bought that was $6,000 is now $4,000, and
Doesn't
this
say
new
super
card
anymore.
doesn't say super anymore, right? And it's cheaper and all this other stuff. So like,
Yep.
NVIDIA has figured out the kind of Apple-ification of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have learned that really, really well. But that booned off of the pandemic. That booned off of,
Crypto, people
crypto.
buying the cards to mine them.
Crypto, huge thing when crypto was a part of the conversation. So like, their technology powers a lot of the weird technological advancements that we wind up seeing because their stuff is so good. So we'll see.
About AI, and again, we're really moving on. I promise you, Kate. It's the last thing I'm going to
Please.
say, and then move on. Like in terms of that AI bubble concept, right? I have not really heard any company find a way that makes sense to me, at least, in a way you would monetize AI from a consumer perspective. Now, if AI is just going to be a B2B thing that
hold
you can,
on now, you'll hear about that soon enough. Because there's a looming oddity that has not hit the beach just yet, and when it does, it may bring with it a lot of slander. Like I am a Galaxy S21 old phone, right? And I'm like, I'm going to the S24 because that's the new hotness, and it's got all these AI features. In the fine print, Samsung says, late in 2025, we're going to start charging you a subscription service for all the AI features we're offering.
Oh yeah.
You know how many people buy this thing?
Okay, and they're gonna say no. Like, there's not you can't. What's the actual application to where? Like, I know they're telling us we need it, right? And just think about this, right? I pay attention to, just through my work, I'm in certain rooms where people talk about things. If you're paying attention, right? There was a time when every company, if you were talking to your investors, it didn't matter what your you just had to say that you're working on something related to blockchain.
Right.
Yes.
And that's all everybody was talking about. And because nobody wants to get left behind, if you say blockchain on your resume, if you say blockchain in a board meeting to get funding for something, they're going to throw money at you. Yeah, I heard about blockchain. Let's do that. How much of AI is that?
1,000%. A lot.
Right?
A lot.
So, and it doesn't mean blockchain goes away or NFTs or whatever the hell goes
It
away.
does still power certain things in the background, but it's no longer the marketing term it used to be. Absolutely.
And it's not a market mover. And so I wonder how, because again, too many people have watched The Terminator, right? But like, and I get some of this stuff, the AI stuff is cool, and we're not turning this into an AI conversation. We're just talking about, like, if AI is going to have a correction, I think it's going to correct hard, because AI is not going to take jobs in the way, like, it's going to take jobs, right? It's just technology, makes people more efficient.
Jobs now.
Sure. 100%. But it's not going to do the thing where, like, you can't have AI write a movie script. You would know it was generic, and like, you can tell right now. You watch a script for a YouTube video that was written by AI and it's terrible, right? It's not, and I understand it will get better. All I'm saying is, like, there's always things in technology that comes along and takes jobs. And so they can sell AI to all their companies like that, but I really think we're in a crazy bubble right now. And what happens to Nvidia, what happens to Intel, what happens to Microsoft when those things correct? Now move on before we get interested in something else and talk about this text.
Yeah, good number.
I love these nerd
10,000.
numbers.
Yeah.
Love
Hey
them.
Holly, good to see you in here. He says, much love to you all for your fan art support. We appreciate you. Say what's up to Ben. And she says the slander quotient today is very high. And unfortunately, she also adds Everborn is right, which she just does
Talk
that to
that
poke the
talk.
bear.
Love
No,
Talk
no,
that
no,
talk,
no,
that
Love it.
number.
Love
no. But okay. Let us get a few stories after all this AI talk. Let's talk about a few things here, because it's kind of sad, right? Today, well, this week we heard that GameStop is finally shutting down Game Informer, the magazine, the long running magazine series. So they will no longer be doing Game Informer magazines. I guess my question, because I stopped getting Game Informer for some time, but I always appreciated the fact that it existed. And now more and more it's going the way of the dodo, where you just can't get gaming magazines anymore. You know, I'm from the Nintendo Power days. Forgive me, I'm an old school. The gray beards are real. I'll start with you. Khalif. Do you still is this thing still a novel idea for you, or have you gone completely digital to the point where you thought this was already gone? Where
I
do you
mean,
fall?
I know I knew a bunch of people who are over at Game Informer. So it's a very sad day for them and for me in that respect. But I think they were the last bastion of print media in the games ways that we think about it. I grew up on Nintendo Power and EGM and Game Pro and all that other kind of stuff back in the day. And it was nice because the thing that I loved about Game Informer was they were doing really interesting stories besides the cover stories, which was the thing that everyone kind of drive to it. Like from I'll put on my marketing hat really quick. From a marketing perspective, it was a great space to be able to debut the latest and kind of biggest game that you have, that you want, people to kind of really understand and know about. And on the inside of those pages, it was great because you would get really fantastic deep dives into, these studios and the folks behind these games and all that stuff. And, a massive shout out to the video team, especially from the fam Alex Van Aken, who used to run a lot of stuff in there. Their video series were some of the best stuff that they put out. Like they consistently put out like really top notch work in that way, and it feels like I shared this on Twitter yesterday afternoon. Was like the thing that sucks about this is like we're losing really really smart conversation and supplanting that with professional screamers and people who don't understand how things work. And I think that's the part that makes this really hard, is because I'll speak for myself in this, and I think I even think about Paris and other folks who were in the space. Like we did a lot of this work because there was a reverence for it. Like we weren't expecting to get paid and do all that kind of stuff, but it was like, oh, you have a real like affinity for the genre and for the art of making games, not just art, but like the nuts and bolts of how games are made. And I think Game Informer really did a really great job of bringing those stories to people in a space where, to be fair, players don't care a lot about the nuts and bolts of it, right? They're like, give me the game, let me play it, do that kind of stuff. But for folks who are like interested in how it all works, Game Informer was one of the best places for it. So it's a really sad day for them, for sure.
Yep. I completely agree with you. I love, and people know me. I'm all about the nuts and bolts. I'm all about the background and how the pieces come together. I actually really appreciated them because, unlike most, because before, we're from that time where you had to wait for the magazine, whichever one it may be, in order to get your information. And then, of course, as the advent of social media and video media kind of made things really, really travel at light speed, those with magazines had to step their game up in order to sustain and be a valuable resource. And these guys were really that. Like they were completely different than your immediate response media. You waited for that cover article because what was in those pages tended to be unique and rare and couldn't be found elsewhere, even on a social media network or in a quick video. It is, to me, very, very sad that it seems like with this is the last bastion that's the swan song, if you will, of print media. Mr. Everborn's like, I'm not sure. Have you interfaced with a lot of this print stuff, or Has this been
I didn't
beyond your
know they
purview?
still had a print magazine. I thought they had
There you go.
transitioned to all digital, but
Yeah.
I will say, just to agree on that point, that did they didn't strike me in as being interested in sort of the what we call drivel, right? And to me, again, I know it's not the same thing, but in terms of this industry, that when we talk about how it is covered, this would be the equivalent of the New York Post closing their doors and just saying, yeah, we can't do it anymore, right? And now, just get your news from YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
Get your news from someone who already agrees with everything that you think, right? Where you kind of decide what you think and then look for confirmation bias to back that up. And a lot of the big sites engage in that today. Some of them try to separate it with opinion pieces, but whatever. And I'm not here to point fingers in any direction, but like, to me, this is a loss, and I wish that they were still moving forward. Like, I don't need the print magazine, right? Like, let the trees stay alive. But like, those minds, those people who are interested in covering this industry, I don't think there are enough people that care to do those deep dives, right? That care to. And another thing is, what I find really, really interesting, right? And maybe maybe the Washington Post was too serious a comparison, but like, imagine if you lost the Hollywood Reporter, right, or Deadline or something like that, right? Like, the thing is, this industry, unlike any other, is so secretive, right? We don't know anything other than what they want us to know. We don't know how much money games make. We don't know how many units of things sell. We don't know what the process. We don't know how the sausage is made, so to speak. And when you have an industry that is that secretive, you need investigative journalism. You need things like that, because if not, then the media just becomes marketing arms for these companies, right? Yes, individuals can give their opinions, but why don't we know how certain contracts are made? Why don't we know? Can you guys still hear me? Am I still here?
I can still hear you.
All right,
your
my
camera went out.
my camera went out at the same time Kay disappeared. So we're under attack. It's big media. That's
Big podcast is coming for us.
Right. No, but like, if you think about it, right? Even when certain leaks happen and the way those things are covered, I think those things should be sort of learning opportunities to dissect things and understand how gaming contracts works, understand how studios are funded, understand what it takes to create an update. And the fact that we don't know these things, but we do know them in other industries because, journalists are going to journal. I just think, and I'm not saying that they were the end all be all, but, at least they were still trying. And I would love to see more investigative journalism, and I'd love to see a more free exchange of information within the industry. And I don't think we're in a time where us knowing these things affects sales. So what is the purpose of all the secrecy in the industry? As someone who's been covering this that long, what do you think, Khalif? Why is this industry so secretive? And why is it so difficult to just get like news about how things actually work? Is it because the audience doesn't want to hear it? Yes. Or is it because okay. Yeah.
Finish your thought.
No, that's the thing. Like, are we? Because I joke with Kay about this a lot, which is, these studios and publishers don't tell us things because we're too immature to handle it.
I think
as
there's
a
a part of
community,
that.
right?
I think there's a part of that for sure. I think folks will spend time to. Well, let me even back up a step, right? So like every studio that I've worked at on the community side, we have a lot of discussions about like what does the player want to hear about our game? What does the player want to hear about the process? So it's a hybrid thing for me as a person who does work that talks about the industry while also working in it in those ways, right? And I think it is a very small amount of folks who care as much as we do about the process. And when you're trying to figure out resources for what does that mean to be able to do that kind of work in a really comprehensive way, it winds up being something where you're like, well, we could do that, or we could spend those resources on doing a behind the scenes video that shows you what the process is of making this DLC or making our game or whatever that thing is. But I think gaming media side of it, I don't think that there's as much of an appetite for those discussions like that there used to be, because there are too many games that are out right now. It is highly marketing driven in terms of what does it mean to get eyeballs on a thing, and stories that do that conversation and have those things kind of really laid bare for everybody. They just don't do numbers in the ways that you would hope for those things to do. I think it's important to be able to showcase and share those reasons why, the minutia of making a game, because it just is smart to be able to share it. But it also, you need an audience who cares about it to continue to kind of move it. So my hope is that we continue to build on that stuff and make more content like that. I just don't think it's going to happen in ways that we see something like Game Informer be able to do. And think about this, Game Informer, when they do those pieces, they are very singularly focused, right? They are very singularly focused on one specific title that is coming out that we know is going to be one of the biggest kind of titles of the year. They're not really covering, at least on the front page, they're not really covering a lot of the other smaller titles that you see. So it winds up being like, we need to put all the force behind this one big thing so we can get the marketing right for whomever is buying that ad spot for what that is. Because that's what it is. Like, they're doing stories because they want to, but also like people pay for that. Like you pay for that spot to be on the front cover of a Game Informer magazine because it's going to have a big circulation for people to see it. So I want people to be better about that, and I want people to be more informed. But also, I say this all the time: the video game industry is very different than every other industry because it's the only one that I can think of where the consumer is as close to the maker as possible. Yeah. You don't get that with a lot of other spaces. Like, you can't roll up on the person who made your Honda Civic and be like, yo, you trash, fam. Like, you suck at making my Honda. Like, you can't do that. There's no way to do that. Video games, you can get on your phone and be like, yo, person who just made this game I love, you suck. Like, there are very few spaces that have that. So
yeah.
It changes that.
So, folks, forgive me. I had some power fluctuations. That's why you saw my I jumped out. I'm back in now. Microphone check. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes, we're good. I apologize. I'm gonna keep the camera off. I think the power brick or whatever in this house might be going too far. So
yeah, you left and it took my camera out with you. I don't know what kind of voodoo you got going on back there.
Yes. My voodoo magic is getting yours messed up as well. We apologize. It is what it is. This is what we do when we're on the go. But all right, so I thought I'd bring this up real quick because it was a sad state for me. I will also bring up another story real quick. Which is Humble Bundle. Remember the Humble Games debacle that happened a week or so ago, which was also very sad because I love the publishing arm of Humble. I'm a user of Humble Bundle all the time. I was worried when I heard that Ziff Davis had purchased them and what their future held, and it looked like their future wasn't really secure. And now there's a weird side story to this thing where some games that were elsewhere, in addition to the being published by Humble Games, they had some deals in place to kind of hold back console variations of their games that would then later on come out. But now, of course, since Humble Games is gone, it's now left that console variation of that game in limbo. They're not allowed to update them. They're not allowed to maybe there was a problem you wanted to fix, or maybe there was a feature you wanted to add to an existing game, because you had that Humble Games contract that said, hey, these guys get access to your game before anyone else, and now they're gone. Still, you can't do anything. You can't upgrade your game. You can't do anything with your game. It's kind of leaving games stuck in limbo. I thought that was very, very strange. I've never heard of that before. It's kind of like saying, Stadia, you now no longer exist, so you took out, I don't know, Cyberpunk with you. Like, it's just really weird.
But are they pulling the games from console, or are they pulling?
No. They're not pulling the games. It's just it precluded them from doing certain updates they wanted to do to give them parity.
Let me ask you a question. Parity with what?
Parity with what was the contract they had made with like one specific platform. Now they can't spread it across because Humble is gone.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have feature parity.
Yes, you will not have feature parity because you're not allowed to touch your own code, because those arbiters that were in place that had a certain timeline and there would be renegotiations, they no longer exist.
How about the game? How about the games on Steam? Are those?
I'm not sure. I think those might be okay. It depends. Not on console though. The consoles are kind of stuck, but on Steam they're okay.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure. CEG.
See,
but in the chat, Lucius Augustus, friend of the show, says,
"Yes, sir.
I heard of it before." He says, "Say it with your chest, Mr. K. Asante." We know who the people they got to deal with is.
Man. We're not doing this whole console.
I'll do it. It was PlayStation. Okay. So what's the next thing?
Man, I just think it's sad, and people should understand that if you're playing your game, your favorite like Humble based game, and it's not working as well anymore, it's because PlayStation. Well, not PlayStation. Because the damn deal. See, now y'all got me doing it. Damn it.
Jim Ryan strikes again.
Captain Asante says.
Oh no. Okay, so before we head down to the Bungie story, I will be a little navel gazing, and I'll do this. This is my cheap plug. So a certain person wrote a certain thing talking about the future of Xbox, and it caught a little bit of fire. A lot of people read about it. A lot of people had opinions on it, and I kind of want to talk about it for a quick moment. A certain K. Asante wrote something on the old Xbox era.
That's a great get, by the way. That's a great get.
Hey man, it was cool. Like they let me write a little article, and I know a lot of people in my chat, people I appreciate, people I love, people part of the fam, they came for me because I was kind of like, some people are not offended, but they don't like my kumbaya nature when it comes to the way they expected me to be throwing bows, and I chose not to do that because, hey, for me, I think it looks
I heard somebody say K. Asante was trying to join the kumbaya cabal.
Wow.
That's what they told me.
Wow. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate
he's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah. Exactly, right? As a technology guy, as a guy who looks towards the future, all that stuff, I see what they're doing, and I appreciate a lot of what they're doing. I appreciate the world they're heading into. And is it all gloom? Is it all sunshine and rainbows? I don't think so. There's still some unanswered questions there.
But it might be lilac and gooseberries.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely, sir. So that's why I just wanted to bring it up real quick and have a quick chat about it. I think there's a world where exclusivity, I call it false exclusivity, because damn it, they're all PCs at this point. They're not even consoles. Consoles is a marketing term. They're all PCs at this point. The reason why they're not on your PC is because somebody's chosen to artificially limit that, and the walls are breaking down, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Ka, I'll let you go first. Am I wrong in that? Am I being a little too Pollyanna in my outlook on that?
No.
Or do I think that is there a world where we'll look back and go, we were limiting those things? Like that is as ridiculous as racism at this point. Like what are we talking?
I'm hoping that we get to the future that you're proposing. I feel like all of the stuff that we've been going over for the past decade plus about and again, like, things have changed over that time frame. I think there was a necessity business wise for that kind of walled garden version of what we've always been used to and have a chance to see. But like technology as a driving force, when we grew up in this space, we would have never thought that you wouldn't have to ever buy a physical copy of a game anymore, right? Like there are so many things that have changed the way that we play that, like, I don't care if a game is exclusive. It never was a driving force for me to cop a thing in the biggest ways. Not because of my it wasn't because of it changing my mindset about that particular platform. It was just a barrier to getting to that thing, and force you, if you wanted that experience, to be able to go and dig into whatever that game was for that, what a specific console was.
Yeah.
So like, I'm hoping all those walls come down. I want everything to work everywhere. I don't care if you are team green or team blue, because it doesn't matter. Do I want to play that game? Word. Can I play that game? Word. Give me the game. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. So great piece on that.
So Everborn, I will let you give me your take on it. Like and maybe the reason why my outlook is the way it is now is I've lived in countries where they have certain mandates in place. Like if you live in certain European countries, they'll say you cannot like limit a user from accessing, like let's take an example, like a phone. If you're gonna buy a phone, you cannot say this person's locked down to this phone carrier. You have to give them the choice to go anywhere they want. So instead, what they'll do is, come to our carrier and you'll get a free TV. Come to our carrier and we'll throw in an Xbox. We'll throw in this. We'll throw in that. When you break down those walls, it forces those vendors to innovate in different ways, to compete in different ways, and it tends to benefit you because they can no longer use that artificial, like a walled garden, as their differentiating factor, right? I'm looking at you, blue bubble, green bubble debaters, right? Like when RCS is on every phone, now the phone has to be good, not just because it has a blue or green bubble. It just is what it is, right? That's always been the way I look at it.
We're still gonna judge those green bubbles. Let's just be very clear.
You do that because y'all are part of the troglodyte brigade. It is what it is.
That's fine.
Everborn Saga, what are your thoughts on this article, sir? What do you think?
All right, so I've evolved on this, right? I've gone through my stages of grief on it. Listen. I want to play a game, I play it too, and 9 times out of 10 that game will be available on Steam. So that is where I went. But what I want to do is, because there's differing opinions on this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So in a perfect world, we would not have borders, right? But we don't live in a perfect world. In a perfect world, I wouldn't lock my door at night. But we're not in a perfect world, right? Mm-hmm. I think we can agree at least on that.
On that, sure.
Right.
As a basis, yes.
So would I love it if every game that Nintendo made, as many people could play it as possible? Absolutely. Everybody should play Mario, right? Everybody should play Zelda. Would I love it if all of Sony's games were available to everybody? 1000%, right? But my thing is, and again, and I also, just disclaimer, this is Microsoft's decision to make, right? Now, whether the rest of the industry will follow suit is a different question, but there's nothing about this that should make you angry, because I do not think it is realistic to think that you will lose access to your library. But and because Microsoft as a game publisher isn't going anywhere. Now, whether they continue to make hardware is a different question. And will they provide a way for you to access said hardware or said library? That is,
that is all the cloudy part. That's the cloudy part.
But again, I don't think anyone's going to lose access to their library, so I don't think that that's a valid fear. That being said, I think people that they're in, just to understand it, right? In this culture, right? Because this is this community where we talk about video games, and we're not talking about the people who just play Minecraft or COD and that's it, and they don't know what thing they're playing on. I'm talking about the people that listen to our podcast every day, that are on the timeline, that follow the news, the 40-year-old graybeards that grew up on this idea of what competition between platform holders is like. And I am of the opinion that that is fun. I'm not talking about people threatening to fight each other and curse people out. I am talking about the general ribbing of, I'm team red, I'm team blue, I'm team green, my team does this, and the publishers now have to play into that and provide things that are differentiators, provide things that make their customers feel good about the platform, and they compete on those things by trying to make the best game possible. And again, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No, but to not understand that that's what this culture is, and not understand when that changes, that people will might not be okay with that because it is a change, and also to assume that the rest of the industry will go forward with this. I think a lot of people go wrong in that direction. This idea of competing on content is what people understand. It is one of the defining factors of this culture. So I just think saying that because Microsoft has decided they don't want to compete on traditional terms and they want to do something different, and just to go along with that as though, sure, of course, because they said it, it's the right thing, not everybody's going to be on board. So I'm saying this to say I can empathize with that line of thinking where this doesn't sit well with you, especially when you turn around. Listen, how much consoles they sell has nothing to do with you. You're not on the board. You don't work there. It doesn't matter if they're the number one that sells. But from a consumer perspective, who stuck with the platform when they weren't doing their best, and you were promised there was a light at the end of that tunnel and you would have your time in the sun where you got those exclusives. Is it a stupid thing? Sure, but that's still a promise that was made to you. And then as soon as you sort of ride that out, and then they say, well, actually, the Excel sheet tells us we'll make more money doing this, forget about that other stuff we said, you're going to feel some kind of way. It doesn't matter. Is it stupid? Yes, but you're still, you kind of were lied to, right? So this is the frustration that you see, on top of when you hear a game that can come out and so brazenly say, you know what? We'll come to your platform when it's advantageous to us, right? Because you're going to get upset, but it doesn't matter. You don't matter. What matters is making sure we're on PlayStation, or making sure we're on Nintendo because they have the numbers, right? And so when you miss games on your platform because the platform holder is no longer interested in, or not, let me not say no longer interested, because that would be a lie. They are interested, but they're only looking at this hardware platform as an endpoint. So they're not interested in.
It's not the
They're
main
not interested in
method.
clawing back market share in that vertical.
Yeah.
And because of that, publishers and developers feel comfortable to skip the platform. And every word out of their mouth, the one that you have a 20+ year history with, is, we don't care if you're on the console, right? And apparently neither do publishers, right? And so again, and it would be fine, this is where my smoke comes in. It would be fine if you said, this is an endpoint, the ecosystem is broader than the endpoint, right? I love that idea, but then when I get over, I'm like, okay, cool, I believe you. Xbox is an endpoint. I'm gonna go play on Game Pass for PC. And I realize that when I get there, their launcher experience is one of the worst out there, right? Like, their games that launch on PC have less features than their Steam and Epic equivalents. That's a fact. That's not me dooming and glooming, right?
No, that's true.
So,
it's true. Yeah.
So now when I go to these other endpoints and I get there and I realize they're not the best in that regard, I hear them say, well, don't worry about that because there's also cloud. And I get to cloud and I see the NVIDIA experience is better there, right? And so, again, this is someone who's coming from a console only gamer, and it seems like they are trying to chase the larger audience at the expense of their core
Install
customer
base.
experience.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I don't it doesn't matter to me that more people get to play a game, but when of the big three, they are embracing it much more. And that's not to say Sony doesn't publish games on Xbox. They do. They publish the baseball game. They publish Destiny. They will publish Marathon, maybe, but that's another story. We'll talk about that next. But you know, that's the thing. This is the anguish you're seeing. It's not that, well, some of it is just straight console warring, but it is also from people who kind of feel betrayed because they stuck with the brand, and people that are watching them miss games come to their platform, and watching publishers brazenly say, we'll get to you when we get to you.
Not reading my article because I said exactly that.
I know. I know you said that, but a lot of people can't understand where some folks are coming from. And again, it doesn't bother me.
It took a while. It took a while, but I started to get it. I'm starting to understand, because we talked to lots of folks in the DMs and things. I'm starting to understand where that comes from. It's just, it seems like, for me, because I didn't come up that way, right? Everybody came up a certain way, and a lot of people came up the way y'all did, which is basically, in the recess line, on the playground, talking about which one's better, right? And it grew as you grew. And because that wasn't me, I kind of feel like that's why I've never had a dog in the fight, because it was never me.
I want to highlight that point. A lot of people try to poo-poo the console war stuff. As long as it's just jokes and we're all here having fun, I think it is a net positive, and I think it's good, and I think it's fun, and I think it's a part of the culture and the community.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter if you're making jokes at the expense of a billion or trillion dollar company.
But as soon as it gets personal, and because it becomes problematic quickly, right? Because as we grow, all the isms join our hobby, right? Your tribalism, your sexism, all the isms join our hobby, and it poisons the well a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's why I can see those who want to remove that part of the equation out of it altogether. Because one pushback I'll give you, and then we can move on. We have a few more stories.
Well, I want to hear what Khalif has to say about my whole diatribe again. I'm sorry, I do these rants, Khalif.
One pushback I'll give you, though. One pushback quickly that I'll give you is to assume that the main core part of the culture is the back and forth as to which one's better. That may be what it was when y'all were children, when we all were children, but I feel like it's far beyond that now.
Yeah,
so that can be minimized.
We've evolved to culture wars.
Oh, come on. What do you think, Khalif? What do you think, Khalif?
I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword, right? We're like that, because it is tribalism at the end of the day, right? It's like, my thing is better than your thing, and these are the reasons why. The thing that I think is sad for where we've landed is that folks are still engaging in it when the balance between the two major players is so slim now that it doesn't make sense. Like, there was a moment when, the NES and the Sega Genesis, from a hardware perspective, had very specific things that would lead you to be like, oh, this thing has blast processing. Again, all these like terminologies that these companies made to make you want to buy a thing made a lot of sense back then, because there were actual differentiators there that made those things happen. There are differentiators now between PlayStation and Xbox that are, from a hardware perspective, that I think you could tout if you were a person who was on either team, to be like, this is the thing that makes my console better. But those things are so infinitesimally small now at this point. Like, it doesn't make as much sense to be able to do that. The second thing that I think is problematic from all of those things now is that it goes back to what we just talked about a little bit with the Game Informer closure. It has given people who don't know things an ability to talk about it like they do.
Yeah,
and that has been the biggest kind of detriment to the overall discourse. Has been like, these folks will give you a thing and tell you something, and they literally have no idea how it actually makes their games in a discernible way better, more faster, whatever. Like, we see it every day, where you have conversations around teraflops. You have conversations around, shout out to the folks from Digital Foundry, right? But like their analysis gets picked apart by people who don't even know how to install a CPU in their own PC. So like, I'm like, what do y'all like? People
become bullets in the chamber of the console wars.
Yes, they all become this fake ammo to fight. It's like when people used to fight, and again, you can speak to this, everyone, because we lived around the same places. But it was like, I remember, when the drug dealers used to be out in front of the block, it used to be in front of the project building, be like, yo, this is my building. I'm like, no, that building says Hammerstein on it. And you don't own none of this building. You don't even own your apartment, but you fighting like you own your apartment and fighting for the building as opposed to when you don't, you know what I mean? Just like the sentiment of you're fighting for a thing that you don't even actually own. And a thing that you don't really need to fight over in these ways. So I think my hope is that we get out of that kind of stratification, because it doesn't do anything for anybody. Like, even if you're a person who is the kind of most stalwart Xbox fan, or the most stalwart PlayStation fan, at the end of the day, you are abiding by the whims of a much larger company that at times does and does not have your best interests in at heart. They will make changes that you are not going to like. They're going to add services and add things to the pot of your gaming experience that you are going to like and not like. And if you are willing to play in this ecosystem, you got to deal with it. And you got to understand that that's a part of the game here, because you're not making a system, you're not making games. So it's a lot of fussing for no reason. And I think a lot of people need to kind of stay away from it, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. As a person who even indulges in it from time to time and laughs at it from afar, while also giving opinions that help to sometimes exacerbate it, it is hard to not understand that those are part of the conversations.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
My thing is, I like funny jokes, and I like, I don't care who the joke is at the expense of. To me, this stuff, I look at this stuff and laugh. I'll say this, and then we can move on to our main thing, because I know we're getting long in the tooth in the show. I treat the timeline and all the back and forth stuff like that, I treat it like riding a New York train. You mind your business, you get where you're going, and when you get home, you laugh at the crazy people. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's it. And it to me, I've always looked at it as entertainment, and I just don't like the kind of, and that's not what you're doing right now, or you, I'm not saying you guys are doing that, but you do see this a lot of this sort of holier than thou, like, how could you make a joke about a corporation? Like, to me, the corporations are just corporations. We should be making fun of them. We shouldn't trust what they say. And if someone makes fun of it, so what? So long as the joke is funny. I draw the line at people getting personal and having attacks towards each other. Yeah, but I do find
that's
it.
That's my thing, though. Right? That line is very thin.
One thing,
it's very thin.
I find it genuinely hilarious. People that can't manage their own bank account turning into financial analysts for these companies. To me, I look at that and I just think it's funny. So more of that. Just let's not threaten each other. Let's not get into fights over it. Let's not curse each other out over it. We came here for fun. And so I think that that's part of the fun. That's just my whatever view of it. But I don't care, because CEG, and I've ascended, and I'm just playing on my ROG Ally X and my 4090 connected to the PC,
Columbus.
and I get all the PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah, right.
He's in the future.
Now I can just eat popcorn and watch you guys fight.
We told him about many years ago, and he didn't understand at that time. But okay, we'll move quickly along. So all right, we're running a little long. I want to get a couple of these things in, and then we'll talk about the Bungie thing. Does anyone care? Well, obviously people care, but it caught a little bit of fire on Twitter. I asked the question, and I'm still getting replies on my timeline based on it. Does it really bother you that Avowed has been delayed to 2025?
No.
Really, Kyle? Does it bother you?
No. Delay it, make it good, and give it to me when it's good. It's fine.
Exactly. How about you, everyone? Does it
not
bother
in
you?
the slightest. Although, if it's for scheduling reasons, I would have rather they delayed Indiana Jones, just because I was really looking forward to it. But again, don't care. They dropped 3 games in Game Pass last week. that I can't even get to because I'm playing a indie game from 2022, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
so
Me too. Yep.
let's not pretend any of these people complaining had time to play COD, Indiana Jones, and then Avowed all dropping within a month of each other.
You see, what I keep hearing about is, yeah, but COD and all those others aren't the first party we're talking about. We're talking about their first party output, which has been.
No,
dry.
you're talking about something that you want to doom and gloom about. Like, people just need something to be upset about. I'm sorry.
And I don't care. There's so many games to play. Go play other stuff. They're gonna make me cuss.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a rule. Everybody gets one. You get one per episode.
All right, I'll hold it.
Use it sparingly because you get one.
I'll hold it because it'll be a long compound cuss word. I'm gonna just string a whole bunch of cuss words together just to get together.
No, but you got the Diablo expansion. You got the Shattered Space expansions, which are basically going to be full games. Right. You got Stalker 2 coming out. You still got Indiana Jones if that doesn't get delayed. And listen, something was gonna not get played. And so if you take one thing out of the equation, it's not like they're doing a typical Microsoft early next year where that means May, right? They're giving you a date, February 18th. I won't be done playing all those games we just mentioned by February 18th, so it doesn't bother me, and I can't pretend to be upset about it. I'm sorry.
Okay. So let's get to that story. Let's get to the Bungie story before we get out of here, which is, of course, a lot of people have heard about it at this point. This has kind of been a slow moving thing for some time, the final shape, how will it shake out? Destiny 2. Otherwise, if it doesn't shake out a certain way, then the idea was that Sony was going to ingest them properly rather than letting them being their independent, having that independent spirit that we know Bungie to have. And now, of course, it's come back around after the final shape release, which by and large lots of people enjoyed and people liked, but it may not have made the sales numbers that they were looking for. It's looking like they're cutting about 220 employees, including some very big faces, known entities at Bungie that basically were the front men of that organization for some time. Also let go in this, and now it's kind of the floodgates are open. They're talking about how the CEO was spending ungodly sums of money on cool cars while they were letting people go. It's a whole thing. Khalif Adams, how do you interface with Bungie? Do you play Destiny? Is this news to you? I chalked it up to I saw this thing coming a mile away, but I don't know how other people feel about it. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I see it from a couple of different perspectives. I think the hard part is always losing really good people, especially when you lose folks like Mark Noseworthy and Luke Smith, who were the frontmen. The frontmen, they basically imparted for many years their kind of fingerprint on what Destiny was going to be. Yep. And it's hard to be able to lose that kind of talent to what seems like to be miscalculations and malpractice. Basically, is the best kind of word to kind of use for it. Yep. But I didn't see this as a thing that we didn't see, coming down the pipeline. There's been so many discussions over the past, 5 or 6 years about, how Bungie wasn't necessarily doing as well as we had hoped. PlayStation buying them, and I'll say this from a perspective of, on my second point, I'll say this as a perspective as having worked for a studio that got bought out by PlayStation not too long ago. But it winds up being this thing of when you have a too big to fail IP in Destiny in a lot of different ways. Because think about how long Destiny has been rolling. Not even just Destiny 2. Destiny as an IP is over a decade long, which is rare these days to be able to have a game last that long and still have this kind of player base and still see that many people digging into it. I've fallen off the Destiny train a long time ago. But this is gonna happen when you don't have those pillars in place to really, drive innovation in some ways, drive, customer sentiment in a lot of different ways. Because the Destiny community is as fervent and as passionate as they are. They've not been happy for a long time. They have been not excited about the base game and the games that you were getting outside of these expansions, and even those have had kind of up and down, at least from what I've seen in the community,
Yep.
sentiment in those ways. So I think, I don't know what that means for their bottom line in terms of, like you said, them not really necessarily hitting their financial numbers in the ways that they wanted. But, all of that to say is the company structure is going to be one thing. The investor expectation is going to be another. What does that mean in terms of how this works for what PlayStation expected versus what they got in terms of their ROI and the return? We don't know what that is. We know how much they got bought out for, but we don't know how they felt about the deal having already been in it. And then the only potential silver lining from some of this is, yes, you lose 200 people. Some of those folks have been, absorbed into PlayStation proper already. Or at least they've been trying to find jobs within SIE for those folks. The only thing that is a silver lining is you do wind up getting a different level of resources when you wind up getting bought. And that potentially can help them moving forward. I think mismanagement is always going to be there, but I think, and you hope it doesn't, but they potentially can turn it around with more resources from all the companies that work inside of Sony to kind of help you cross those lines when you need to from a development perspective. So we'll see where it goes. People giving P. Parsons the business about him buying all these cars and all this stuff. Like, I'm of two minds where I'm like, yes, it sucks when you should be able to enjoy the spoils of your labor. But if it comes at the expense of other people when you could not do that, that's where it gets sticky and gross. Like that's where it becomes a problematic thing where people are like, yo, you could have not bought that third Rolls Royce to keep these, 4 employees, on the team. So, we'll see what that means.
So
they did talk about real quick, just so that that's out there as well. They did also talk about that they're kind of taking the while the Bungie is in shambles a little bit, and a lot of these employees are asunder, if you will. They're looking for jobs. It looks like they are building another studio based off of Bungie devs, old Bungie devs, and they may very well have a future with another PlayStation IP or something. So that has been rumor and speculation that's going on during this heated bit of Bungie's future. But Everborn, I'll let you in on this conversation. To me hearing like Luke Smith and a few others leaving, that's like Hugo Martin from Doom getting ousted. Like it would be just like drastic. What are your thoughts?
So there's a couple of things here. So the way that this is written in this headline, like, and a lot of other people say it, they say 17% because that, that's a lower number, or you hear 220 a lot because that's a lower number, but the number is higher, right? Like there are 400, they were 1,300 employees there. They've cut their head count by 34.5% down to 850. The reason that is because 220 are just losing their jobs. 155 are going over to Sony, and 75 are forming that new studio under Sony, not under Bungie, right? So this is much bigger than 17% or 220 people. So that's the first thing, and that whole thing sucks. And also the two execs that you were talking about, I don't know that they were specifically let go, as opposed to their project, which was the Destiny spinoff, got shelved indefinitely. So they said, why am I staying here, right? And this is the thing, when you have people that make a lot of money, right? If they're not going to be doing something that they enjoy doing, they'll just leave. They don't need the paycheck. Right. So those two guys leaving, I see a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, how could they fire those guys?" But those guys left.
Fired.
Right. So that's the thing. Those 220 people got fired or laid off. The difference. But those guys left. So I just want to make sure we are reporting. We're not reporters, but we're discussing that in a more fair way.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting to me is those, we know that Sony acquired Bungie to help them because their core competencies are not service games, right?
Mhm.
And they Bungie was supposed to help them with that, and we cannot. And Michael Pachter said this, and I know Michael Pachter has been hit on or miss on some things, but lately he's been pretty on point, I think, anyway. Where he says he thinks Sony overpaid for Bungie, and that it came out during the ABK case that Microsoft was looking at them, but their burn rate was too high for them to make a deal. So Sony didn't care about that because they felt, and I'm quoting Jim Ryan here, there's more upside to or more value that they can extract from Bungie, the Bungie acquisition, than Microsoft is going to get from ABK. Which, again, slander, that aged like milk. But the thing is, the 150 they took, I wonder if that was like the consulting part of it. Those 150 people that can now help them with their scaled back pivot to service games, right? And so you have 850 people now supporting Destiny and Marathon development, and now they have to scale back their shelve their expansion, scale back their content drops, or scale back their seasons. They're now calling them content drops, which 343 did something similar, where they said we're not doing seasons anymore, we're doing like operations or something like that. And they got crucified for it, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. But the thing is, I don't know what this means for the future of Bungie. I also, I know optically the cars things looks bad, but like a guy, again, you have to be mindful of optics when you are in a position like that. But I'm not going to fault him for making money on a sale of his company and then buying cars.
Right.
I would do the same thing, and most of you would too. And if you really did the math, right, what is the average salary of the people that got let go, and how many jobs could he have saved for how long by foregoing his 2 point whatever $1 million salary, or I don't know how much he makes, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's easier for us to say, just give up your salary. You're going to keep all those 450 people or 220 people. What are you going to keep them employed for another 6 months? That's not really going to solve your burn rate problem. Right. So
I just think that may be more of a symbolic gesture to show you stand with them, more than it actively stopping certain people from stopping many employees from being let go. Everyone understands that may not necessarily be the case, but as you're saying, right? It's just bad optics. That's all
and
it is.
Yeah, and it's what you call it too. We're seeing stories come up from former employees about like how that lack of foresight and that lack of reading the room it was really hurtful to people, because again, it's a human experience of being let go from a company that you've put a lot of work into. I was laid off last year from a company, from a studio that I was really excited about working at, and if you were to show me your Lamborghini and then 2 days later I get canned, I'm gonna be salty.
Absolutely. Listen, everybody that worked there has the right to curse his ass out.
Yeah. But I agree with you too that you should be able to enjoy the spoils of your work. And I think a lot of folks don't think about the acquisition money, right? Salary and acquisition money, even outside of that, I wasn't as mad when people are like, oh my God, he had all these cars. I was like, when you're rich, you do rich people things. Rich people do rich stuff. You buy dumb things that you don't really need. You feed into your own hobby, all of those things all the time. So I'm less mad about that. And devs do cost a lot of money. A dev who is worth their salt, that's in the 150 to 180 range a year, right? If you're paying them super well and you're paying them based on where they live, which is mostly on the West Coast, Bellevue is not a cheap place to live. So you have to definitely support those people in the ways that you're financially setting them up in terms of salary. So keep going, everyone. I know you
Yeah,
had more points at the end.
So like you look at all this and you think, well, why did like Sony had to know this, right? Did they not do any due diligence when they made this acquisition? For what? And everybody, listen, I'm not a financial analyst. Khalif, maybe you are a financial analyst. I don't know what you do in your spare time, but everybody saw that and was like, yeah, 3.6 billion feels high.
Yeah.
For a studio with one IP, right?
Sure.
You don't have to be like a rocket scientist to know that didn't make a lot of sense at the time, and we all thought like this is a response to the ABK thing, right? Sony's stock had dipped, I don't know, 15-20% on the news of, and I'm sure there's other factors, but it dipped significantly on the news of the ABK acquisition. And funny enough, they didn't have to do that because they weren't going to lose COD anyway. But what I'm saying is,
it's kind of wild.
Yeah. Jim should have signed the contract. But speaking of Jim, do you think, and I know they'll never say this because when you're playing at that level, nobody's going to say why you're departing. Do you think this acquisition and like Sony and Hiroki Totoki looking at the numbers played a factor in Mr. Dance Moves sailing off on his yacht?
No, I mean, I think when you're at that level, you're at that senior of a level, you have an understanding of like windows and time frames, right? And you're like, all right, we made this acquisition, and you think about it because you have this conversation around Phil Spencer and who you just said on the Sony
Jim
side.
Ryan.
Jim Ryan, right?
Yep.
Jim Dance Moves is what we
Jim
call
Dance Moves. And you look at the
Shout out to
entire
King
like,
David.
yeah, you look at the entire like lineage of things that you've done under the umbrella of what your time served, right? And I think even when people give Jim Ryan, his non-flowers, there are some interesting things that happened under his tutelage that wind up going here. But all of that to say is like all of these acquisitions are making, informed bets that sometimes pay off and sometimes don't. If you're going to spend $3.8 billion for what you think is just Destiny, it's not just Destiny. It is, like you said, it is the infrastructure layers of trying to figure out what live service is. And you have a company who's done it really, really well for a fairly long amount of time. You're buying into their technology. You're buying into the technology pipelines. You're buying into the talent that's at those studios, knowing that at some point you get a game that is going to be something that you're going to spend a lot of money on your marketing and hopefully you'll get a lot of return on in those ways. I don't think people are like, oh, Destiny's dead. Like, Destiny doesn't die because Bungie had a whole bunch of layoffs. Marathon now, on the other point, that changes a lot of conversations for Marathon. Once you dump that amount of people for a game that's going to be your next big thing and takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of dev power to be able to get that thing done. So I think, I don't fault PlayStation for making that bet. I do think they definitely probably overpaid some for what they got out of Bungie, but I think them thinking about the ABK deal and all the other stuff, once you start to see that the potential for your power position is moving and shifting, you do stuff like this in terms of acquisitions perspective to try to stay on par. Because think about
Fog of war is what we call it.
To a certain extent, yeah, absolutely. Because think about it. Even in the things that came out later around Phil Spencer even saying, yo, we're in third place. Sony has been in first place for a long time. If you're in that power position, you don't really need to have made that deal, even if ABK becomes a thing. Sure, you get COD, you get King, you get all of those other layers of the funnel, and you get Diablo, but like, I don't think of those specific games as being anything outside. They're not disrupting anything. They are staying on the same track that they've always had, which makes a lot of money, which has a lot of player base and has all that stuff, but it's not building something new, if that makes sense, right? So I think PlayStation, I think they made a decent bet that didn't turn out, alongside a conversation that happened where no one saw, again, the pandemic coming, which changed everything for everybody. And I think that moves the conversation in a different direction. So I think if you're taking all those pieces into context, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. And it also didn't play out the way anybody thought it would. So, you know, you can crystal ball it as much as you want, but you're never going to get the full details because you just couldn't see some of that stuff coming into practice.
I hope and pray that some of the, from a game customer level, right? Say what you will about Destiny, say what you will about, you know, where they have come from and where they are now. They still have some of the best moment-to-moment combat systems out there. I hope that does not get diluted by all the moving and shaking as far as the loss of such talented individuals. I hope that Bungie energy still stays fresh, which we shall see in Marathon if it still comes out. What do you think of it?
Let me ask both of you guys another question. How much of the, well, I guess there's two questions. One, are we witnessing the sort of like more hands-on sort of takeover of Bungie? Because we heard Jeff Grubb say that Herman Holtz runs Bungie now. And if that is the case, you know, if you are in the red, did Pete Parsons sell Sony and Jim Ryan a bill of goods? And if that is the case, you know, if he's not going to continue to run, and I think there was some clarification on this, so please someone keep me honest. If he is not, if they're going to be more closely integrated into Sony and Herman Holtz is going to be calling the shots, what should happen, do we think, with Pete Parsons?
Oh, Pete is going to have to step down. Like, I mean, even if it's not because of him actually doing anything, well, the public perception that there have been improprieties there, you can't wipe that away. When you have employees internally or externally who are no longer at the company saying all of these things about mismanagement and all this stuff, like, I don't think when you're doing the mergers and acquisition part, Sony does, every company does, I'm not just going to say Sony, you do a wild amount of research on market value and all the things that are, you know, management, who are the people who are, you know, running the ship. All of that stuff goes into all of the discussions about whether you pull the trigger on a deal like this. So I don't think it's a thing where Pete Parsons in any actual way, when they looked at this deal, they were like, "Oh, Pete it doesn't bring value to this conversation, and we're going to buy this, you know, sight unseen and just do it because of Destiny," right?
Yeah,
that doesn't really work. So I think he probably leaves because he's gotten industry pressure now to go, because there's been continued rumors that rub off on PlayStation. Like, it's not PlayStation's fault, but it's like guilt by association at that point, where they're like, oh, well, Bungie's name credibility doesn't feel as strong as it possibly can, but we're not going to dump it because you still have, you know, a ton of value there. And I think a part of the larger discussion here that I think a lot of people keep missing is, why did PlayStation buy Bungie in the first place? Yes, it was the IP, but it was mostly because of the network infrastructure stuff that they're doing from a live service perspective. No one could have foreseen that just saying the words live service would get you tarred and feathered in 2024. No one saw that coming. That wasn't a thing. There were smatterings of people and players being upset about the practices that come alongside of a live service game, microtransactions, you know, the feeling that you're not getting the full package when you buy a game because it's moved into live service. Like, there's a lot of discussions that go along with the practice of why Bungie got acquired that people continue to miss. And again, that was market changes. That wasn't just them dumping it and crapping the bed and not putting out good content. There were a lot of things that happened in that discussion that moved why they are not doing as well as they possibly could be, and why even Sony right now is pivoting away from live services, although 2 years ago they were going, you know, full in on it. So, you know, those are all parts of that bigger equation and bigger story.
okay, this is gonna sound crazy, but I promise you I don't mean it in this way.
Yeah.
But if you couple, and again, we're seeing this now, but I'm sure the people within Sony saw this earlier, right? If we look at the decision to pivot hard into live service and how that played out, and we look at the decision to what turns out to seem like, and again, this could change, but what seems like they overpaid for Bungie. And then PSVR 2 is a hardware expenditure that didn't do what I think anybody wanted it to do.
Right.
Those were all decisions, and I don't know what the PS Portal was, right? Like, whatever. And this is not to say like Sony bad, because we just spent a bunch of time, or I just spent a bunch of time about how and why people are unhappy with Xbox, right? I'm not doing that. So if you have one of those sort of, anyway, besides the point, what I'm saying is if you couple the Bungie acquisition, the live service pivot that doesn't appear to have worked out and they're scaling back, the PSVR 2 and the PS Portal, I don't think any of those had an impact on the sales domination of the PS5, but they did have an impact on bottom line and margin. So they all, to me, did not work out, and the PS5 would still be dominating in the way that it had without those things. If you put all of that together, this is why I really have questions about the reason that Mr. Jim Ryan left.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and we may have to wait for some kind of later down the line expose on talking about what led him to leaving, and maybe we might learn a bit more in that regard. But
he might have just cashed out too. He was like, "Yo, I'm done." Like, yo, I don't need all this. I don't need people in my DMs 24/7 telling me I ain't crack.
Yeah,
I'm rich.
And similarly with Parsons, he just may be like, it might be time for me to move on because I like my cars and I don't like people eyeballing it when I buy stuff.
Trust me.
Maybe Bungie, you just got to peace out. It is.
But here's the thing: he's gonna get a golden parachute no matter what happens.
Of course, yeah.
And he's still
gonna buy more cars.
He's gonna buy more cars.
That's right.
And he's still gonna work in the industry. Like again, Pete Parsons as a name. This is the thing that people get mad about legacy, and it's a double-edged sword. Even if you look at how long he's been doing this, at that level, as a CEO of a major studio, if he were to leave tomorrow, there will be 15 to 20 different other places who would be like, yo, come on board.
Yep.
Because what will happen is he'll either go into consulting, if he wants to just make a paycheck just for the sake of making a paycheck. He'll go and do other kinds of media.
You could go work for Tencent.
Or you can go work for Tencent.
And then
Like,
complain
in a
about
real
acquisitions.
In an actual real way. No, but he's real though.
Doing there.
But like for real though, in a real way, like he could just be like, you know what, I'm gonna just jump ship and I don't want to do this version of it. I'll go behind the scenes. You won't even see me, but I'll make crazy bank anyway.
Yep. There you go.
He's not gonna lose. He's of all the people who are gonna lose, he's not gonna lose. That's the reason why people are mad about him having all them cars.
But all right, so I think we'll pause it there. I know there's most likely going to be a lot more coming out because the blood's in the water and all of that. I hope that we at some point see the fruits of all these labors, and pretty soon we get another thing in there, another game in their stable that still has some of that Bungie energy. Because say what you will, they created great stuff, and I hope they continue to create great stuff. They have some second to none talent. They had anyway. Yes,
Can
sir.
I ask Khalif one final question before we go? And
Please.
this is more of a.
Yeah.
This won't take long. Judging by all this news, what is your prediction, sir, about whether Marathon will or will not grace the shores of Xbox now in this new world? And if it doesn't, should Microsoft and I know we're not children or whatever, they're not kids, But does Microsoft take any of that into account with when they decide where they're going to put their games? And if they don't, should they? That's the question.
I mean, I think Microsoft's strategy of continuing to put games everywhere still is a smart decision. I know people don't like to hear that, and I know people get mad at when you say that, but I still think
See, now you're about to join the Kumbaya brigade with me.
I mean, I've been there though. Like again, like I don't care. Like again, as a person doesn't want walled gardens, like throw all your games wherever you want. Like let everyone have the same experiences, because then you just build affinity towards that outside of the fanboys. But I do think if I were Sony, this is going to sound contradictory too. If I were Sony, they don't have a lot of feathers in their cap that are just theirs outside of the major IPs of Last of Us and maybe Ghost of Tsushima. Like if you think about the games that are there right now, that everyone's like, oh, that's a Sony game that I want because it's a Sony game. You have 3 basically: Last of Us, God of War, and the other one I just said. But like,
Ghost. What about Horizon?
You didn't forget about it. He fell asleep on it.
I love Horizon.
No. Calm down.
That was for MJ.
And now they got Astrobot also in the wings. So,
Astrobot's in there, and it's good. But like, I don't think of people being like, I'm buying a console for Astrobot.
True.
But like, okay, you have those 5 games, right? That's great. I think that's cool. They need more, right? They still need a shooter in that way. It would be cool if they had a shooter in that way. You know, Helldivers is a game that people care a lot about, but that also isn't in that same vein. The COD is still going to be on this system, but it's not theirs. You know, it's a shared experience across a lot of stuff. If they were to say Marathon is going to be the game that we want for that, then they can keep that. Also, Spider-Man. People say
yeah,
Spider-Man.
true. Yeah, Spider-Man.
Right? Spider-Man, right? But again, none of those are multiplayer games in that way, which is the ones that bring you the most people to your platform. And it would be cool to be like, yo, we spent this money. We have something to show for it in that way.
Yeah.
So I doubt that they would try to make it exclusive to their platform. Hearing what's happening now, they kind of can't afford to.
But this is the question I was going to ask, right?
Yeah.
How long has Marathon been in development? Because chances are, much like on the Xbox side, if it's been in development long enough, there's code sitting there, right? And you've already heard people talking about ROI. You've heard the money men in the room on both platforms saying, "Look, we got to make more money." You don't let code that's sitting there continue to sit there because it'll be a feather in your cap. You got to spend that money. That money is spent. You got to get your return on it. So unless they're telling me they're still in pre-production, then Everborn, I see where you're going. But this has been announced some time ago. I don't foresee them saying, well, they're full bore now. They're now part of us now. So screw the Xbox code. Throw that in the bushes. That is sunk cost.
Here's what I'd love to see. Right? Like Microsoft talks a lot about portfolio now just because they own so much, right? And they talk about like internally using that portfolio to their advantage, like to better the ecosystem. And I think, again, I agree with both of you and the whole Kumbaya cabal, as they call it. I agree with all of that the world would be a better place if we got rid of these walled gardens. The exclusives really only benefit the platform holders, not the player. I agree with that. But it hurts the player if only one platform holder is doing it, right? So if I am Microsoft, right, I put on my big boy pants and I say, let's use our ecosystem to our advantage, which is anything we're not contractually bound to release anywhere. You're not going to get those games. Like you want the next Doom, you want the next Diablo, you don't get that unless maybe like we share.
But now you have to explain to Amy the Hood why she ain't getting her grip. I'm saying,
listen, you got to think of the big picture. And what I'm saying is, use your portfolio to advance your vision, which is get the other people, and you can do that and show them, look, you'll actually make more money doing this. right? And so, like, again, just that's what I'd like to see. If they are saying it's about being everywhere and it's about using the portfolio to make their ecosystem better, then use it. It doesn't have to be exclusive. I don't need to be exclusive, but use it to get content on your platform.
Or make it timed. Like, I don't think anybody has a beef with timed exclusivity.
Some people do.
Some people do.
Some people do. Some people do. You know, it is what it is. Okay. So,
but again, that doesn't matter to me because CEG. But
yeah. Calm down with your CEG. Yeah,
CEG.
Anyway,
see, we're gonna get it going.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll leave it there because we've been going for almost 3 hours now. Actually,
damn! As soon as Lemon come in the chat, 108 Dragons. As soon as he says what's good, K Asante want to end the show. So
hey man,
out to Lemon.
I'm technically on vacation and I'm gonna have people looking at me side eye very damn soon. So I gotta keep it stepping. But yes, Khalif Adams, sir, it has been a pleasure. It has been an honor having you on our small little show. It is fantastic what you do, and you continue to do it. You continue to put the boot on the neck of the industry where it's necessary, and we appreciate that, sir. Tell the fine people, the rare few who may not know where to find you, where they will find you. And when's the Spawnies coming back? I loved that. That was amazing.
First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, and especially thank you for allowing me to be on today, even though I was chasing a small dog early this morning who was trying to kill itself. So I apologize for being late. But I love the conversation we had here today. There's a reason why I was so excited to be on with you and rock with you, because you have some of the smartest conversations in the gaming industry here. And it was a pleasure for me to be here. If you haven't checked out Spawn on Me, you can check us out on all podcast platforms. We upload weekly. We have 2 interviews up from my time at San Diego Comic-Con with the teams from Star Wars Outlaws. So we had a conversation with the cast and Julian Garrity, creative director there. So check out those pieces of content. There'll be a new show dropping as well on Monday. If you want the video versions, you can check it out on YouTube or on Spotify. Spotify is the best place to get the audio and video at the same time. And Spawnies will be back. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if I can get some money. Pete Parsons, let me borrow one of them cars and sell them joints so I can get Spawnies together. We'll be in February of next year as well. So we're doing it every Black History Month at the end of Black History Month to make sure that we have the fullest conversation around games and the culture. So our award show, spotlighting and supporting underrepresented folks in the gaming industry. We're going in a strong way, and we got more goodness coming.
All right. Did we lose K Asante? We might have lost him. All right. Well, he's on mute, not on mute. We don't know what's happening, but listen, Thank you everybody for joining us this week. And thank you, Mr. Khalif, for joining us. We hope you will be back. Any guest of this show knows once you get the keys, you can use them at any time.
CG
Harris does this all the time. Yes, sir.
So the CG podcast.
Back. If we are talking about something that's interesting, you can hop in for a few minutes and then jump out. So you now are a full-time guest at the show. You can come back whenever you want. As for me, where you can find me, I am getting ready for New York Comic Con. This is the first time the Everborn Saga is going to be on the main floor. Usually we're in Artist Alley, but now we got a new book, and we're launching a Kickstarter for Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2, which will coincide with the show. So the Kickstarter will run and end right when the show starts or a little bit after. And so if you want to get the book, you can come, and you're in New York, you can come get it there, or you can support the Kickstarter, and we ship worldwide. It's going to be a big deal. 72 pages for one chapter of this thing. And so I'm very excited about that. Just write this down. If you're in New York, booth 2039 is where the Everborn Saga is going to be. We are working on cover art right now. We got the game coming soon. Well, soonish. But more on that. If you're in the Discord, you can watch me work on that in real time. And then we got our next books, which is Redlands Chapter 2, and we're launching a new series called The Remnant, hopefully this year. So just keep your eyes out for that. But the next big thing is Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2. And I know I say this every time, but I really think it's our best work in terms of the writing by me, the artwork by Mike Banting, the coloring by Albert. And so check it out. I've been sharing some pages here and there where I can, but I don't want to do spoilers. So this is me doing my sales pitch, and keep out for the Kickstarter. I really hope you guys support that. I don't know if we got Kay Asante back yet, but if we don't, Khalif, you can get out of here. Me and Kay will close up the show because I don't know how to close it because he's hosting it, but we'll see.
You got to close it out. You got to close it
Yeah.
out now. You got to be your best Captain Asante.
This is it. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. So until next week, join us on GCP, the Gaming Circle podcast, with me and Kay Asante and friends. And on Monday, we have Kay Asante and John Wolf with the Gamers Playground, where they do all the PC handheld talk. So if you're into that, check them out every Monday. And that's it. I don't have control over this thing, but we're just gonna say bye.
Thanks for being on it.